I love that first record. Just a bunch of like, I don't know if we would necessarily, I don't want to be rude, but like the bands that were really known for a song, you know, and
Yeah.
you know,
One hit wonders. Yeah.
I mean, they're called that for a reason, indirectly.
yeah. I just didn't want to say that but like I don't know. But I'm trying to be.
By the way, we are live as of 1 second ago.
Live from the funeral of God.
Live, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do those vocals anymore. I have to leave all that stuff to Joe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I there was a lot of bands, like Course of Nature was another one that I really dug growing up, and just like they had like a lot of beefy riffs, but like with melodic vocals. I mean, that Revis song "Caught in the Rain" is, I mean, some of those riffs are just beefy, and
dude, their guitar tone as a whole, like the production on that record, obviously with it being done by, and I'm totally blanking now that I'm on the spot, but I think it was Brendan O'Brien. I think did that. But yeah, like that for a while, like I was always like, I just want like the clarity and the heaviness of that record.
Yeah,
but I want it to also have the pop hooks that kind of come out of for their choruses and stuff, and just like how you feel like that was a record that definitely every part of it was like written specifically, like it had been through the songwriting machine several times over.
Oh yeah,
because like there's not really any part of any song on that record where you're like, that part kind of hung around a little too long. And there's always a great payoff for almost everything they do. So
yeah, it was a fantastic alternative rock record. And actually, I've been kind of in a Foo Fighters binge within the last like 48 hours or so. And
25th anniversary of the first record.
Yep.
Nice.
And just hear the production from, in my opinion, the late 90s, early 2000s was like the perfect time for music production, because technology was just good enough to the point where it was nice and polished, but you also still had to know how to sing and play your instrument. And all my favorite records. I was listening to Bleed American about an hour or two ago, and I was by Jimmy Eat World, and I was like, this production is just perfect. You actually feel like, especially if you're blasting it in your car, you feel like the drummer is in the room with you. And it's not sampled to hell. It's not, it's just, it's real. So, but anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, the LP version of that sounds really, really, really good too. Like even better than the CD. I actually, whenever I picked up that LP, I actually got that LP for like $8 at a record store. Nice. And I was completely blown away by it, because I didn't know, because you know how like the bigger labels have been like basically just crapping out vinyl versions of popular albums. So like if you go to Target or something and buy Nevermind on vinyl, like it's gonna sound like, at best it's gonna sound like the CD. It's gonna sound like the CD, or worse, or just sound like the Spotify version or something,
Yeah.
So that I was pretty blown away by how good that actually sounded. That like a lot of care actually went into that release, and I got it for like basically next to nothing, so it worked out really well. But to keep this is in some semblance of a podcast, we are obviously we are the Brutally Speaking podcast. With me is John Beatty, and also joining us tonight are Joe and Grayson from the band Lightworker, and we are going to talk about some records that have come out in 2020 that we like, because 2020 is a lot of negativity. There's a lot of negative crap that we could talk about tonight, but we want to talk about things that bring us some level of happiness. Some of my picks, you may actually think that I'm not trying to be happy or positive, but I promise you that is what we're going for. So so we're gonna do our top 5 albums of 2020, and we'll just go around the table kind of, and they don't have to be in any particular order, and hopefully we don't overlap. If we do, I don't care. I'm just going to talk about the record again as if nobody else said anything.
Well, I mean, if that does happen, that's pretty much a great example of why it's an album of the year.
Absolutely,
it's very true.
Or it's great minds think alike. Yeah.
I actually have like a whole freaking list here of like 35 records, so I'm ready to go. Like, yeah, I can just pick from that little jar. So,
well, the good news is I'm sure we'll do honorable mentions at the end.
Yeah,
So
I was
we should be
gonna say
rocking.
I'm the opposite. Joe is very prepared. I am not prepared. So we'll see what happens.
It's all good, man. I don't prepare for any of these, so we're good.
we've been very preoccupied in the Lightworker camp, and a lot of the technical stuff. You see, the thing that people need to realize about Lightworker is that there's a dude named Grayson in the band, and then beyond that, Grayson is a genius, and he does a lot of stuff that is really cool for the band, and so he definitely hands like in a lot of things. So that's a good thing. Like, even among the pandemic, we've still been able to be busy. So,
in other words, if I were prepared, we'd be worried.
Yeah,
means I don't have enough work to do.
Exactly.
What do you guys want to talk about? I heard you guys were having a chat tonight. I need something to do.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I guess we'll start. Where do we want to start? Let's start with Grayson. What is one of your? Yeah, that's right. I just picked a guy that just told me he was the least prepared.
Awesome.
I just felt like that'd be a good way to break the ice, you know.
In that case, okay. Now I'm a little bit more prepared. So I mean, to be honest, I mean, of course, like we're gonna go off of albums that have come out so far. There are albums that I know that have come out that I'll probably make, for example, like a top 10 of mine this year that I just have not even gotten to listening to. Even ones where it's like, okay, I said I'm going to order the vinyl. I'm going to wait for the vinyl to get here. And of course, because of everything going on this year, shipments have been a little delayed. But it's at the point where even like after I get them a month late, it's 2 months later and I still haven't listened to them. So I'm going to go off what I know. All right. So one album that I'll actually mention is Monomania from the Word Alive. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I liked that record. I really liked the one that they did 2 times before. I to be honest, wasn't as much of a fan as the one before this, but I think that I think Joe and you and I have talked about a little bit, but I think that they're one of those bands that like started out as more so of like that very heavy, you know, even shreddy, like kind of like metalcore style band who have transitioned a little bit into, you know, more of like the hard rock or even borderline, I don't want to say active rock, but you know what I mean? It's like they kind of transitioned to like doing more of these rock-based records or hard rock-based records. But I think that like in this album, I believe is a kind of shows it. Like they've actually done a pretty good job of it. I think the whole record is full of songs that are fairly catchy that big key is like don't cringe over, you know, because sometimes you get cheesy catchy and that's not really my thing. But you know, there are a couple of songs in there that I can really sink into, and so that's why I got the record. I'm totally up for listening to that record all the way through. So yeah.
What's funny about that, just to add to that, was the way that even came into our radar. I will take credit for it because of the fact that like, you know, honestly, the Word Alive typically isn't kind of my cup of tea. You know, they're a great live band. I've seen them live a few times, but they've just never until this record. And it was interesting. I was just kind of like, whoa. And I told Grayson, I was like, dude, you got to check out the new record. And he was like, wait, you like it? And I was like, yeah. And he was just like, no, okay, I got to listen to it now. And
well,
yeah.
For the record, really quick, like the thing is like Joe will mention something new just dropped before I have a time to wake up. So like I was going to listen to it before he told me, but it's just like there always comes like, for example, the new Bring Me the Horizon album got announced today. And before I could tell Joe, he's like, yeah, I saw it. It gets annoying sometimes. Like, dude, can I please like show you something cool without you already know about it? Like just turn off your feed for like 10 minutes so I can find out something before you do.
I do sometimes wonder if Joe's always like 24/7 sitting in a dark room with like 19 screens open to different pages, because literally half the time I'm about to type anything or share anything, I get a notification and it's all like Joe Calderone has posted in such and such group, and I'm like, all right, well, I ain't got to worry about it. I'm good.
Dude,
Sounds about right.
yeah, I just have fast internet.
He's well connected. Yeah. Let's jump it over to John. What do you got, man?
I'm gonna go with
Of course.
Code Orange underneath. This is I mean, Dan and them just did a discography discussion on them, which I think pretty much summarizes, if you're a fan of the band, why. This record came out, and seeing the videos come out for it right away, and the thing that, like, I still remember, like, getting kind of chills, like when Jamie wasn't behind the kid anymore and he's now the front man, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, perfect example of how this band just always keeps you guessing as to what they're gonna do. You think you might have an idea, like, especially like, with the last the record before this, Forever, not Forever.
Yeah,
it was Forever. Sorry.
Yeah.
They just announced some new shit that's, I guess, dropping on Friday, I think. So I'm not sure if it's an EP or what it is, but again, because you don't know, they did a Unplugged series or an Unplugged show a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or whatever. That was interesting, pulling out an Alice in Chains cover. Then they go industrial and all that shit. They do remixes. They do fun things for their fans where they give away flash drives with stuff on it that's exclusive, and you have to solve puzzles and shit to get it. They basically are finding a way to keep things interesting and always a step ahead, it seems, when a lot of bands are content just to play it safe. So, newest Code Orange, I should say.
They definitely branched out, and and that's like stating it lightly. Like you said, they're very unpredictable, and I have a lot of admiration for that. I'm interested in where they're going, and I definitely admire their ability to just go into the unknown and making it happen. So yeah, that's cool.
Plus, they might have had they basically were one of the first that came up with a live stream, more or less. When everyone else is like, now what the fuck do we do? They're like, we're doing a live stream. We're playing the show, our album release show, like we were supposed to. We're just playing in an empty venue. And at that point, I think collectively everyone was just like, wait, you can do that? And now it's what everyone's doing. It's what every band is doing to basically, of a certain level, to kind of stay afloat. So to me, I mean, again, keep you on your toes, and they just find new ways to interact with their fans and not, just do the same tired shit that we just constantly see.
Well, Joe, what do you got?
Excuse me.
So in the spirit of that, for me, it would be the new The Ocean album. It's I think on the other end of things, they also do keep their listeners on their toes. They never really, you could tell it's The Ocean, but like Robin and company, they're always thinking of new concepts. And then if you're into collecting physical copies like I am, I mean, they just bring it to the next level where, they have die cut stuff. The vinyl is, like crazy colors, and, they always have like a bonus song on the vinyl, and they go to great lengths to make it so it's not just an album that you listen to, but it's an entire experience. And the new album, Phanerozoic 2, Mesozoic 1, Cenozoic. That's
let me write that down. Can you spell that for me?
Yeah, seriously.
Sorry, you're trailing off there, and I thought I caught a niner at the end.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny because I posted something a while back where I said The Ocean is basically what Thrice would have been if they decided to like have remained heavy, and they mixed like the Vesu elements with Artist in the Ambulance, where they still have that proggy stuff, but it's still heavy and interesting, and yeah, it's a great record. I can't wait. the last few days have been like summer here, so it's been kind of interesting. But I can't wait until it starts to get foggy and colder. That way I can just really sink into it just based off of the vibes of the record. But yeah, that would be mine.
Oh, is it my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So mine is my pick is actually about my favorite season, which is fall. And it would definitely have to be the Acacia Strain's Slow Decay album. It's just, it's the Acacia Strain. You know what you're getting into. Yeah, John, it did come out in 2020. I checked.
No, it's raising a question for something else.
Okay. Cool. Why did you say that you hated it on discography discussion? No, it's definitely been. Huh? Yeah, you were.
I know.
So what are you talking about, man? But yeah, that record is like Acacia Strain. They're kind of a band that's kind of known for just doing one thing, and doing it very, very, very well. But before they released this record, they actually released an EP, which was a little bit more experimental, even dare I say, a hair melodic. And we know, John. Did I just double up?
It came out last year. No, it just came out last year, so that's why I was like, "Fuck, I gotta get something different."
Yep. You lose. EPs suck. But yeah, but yeah, like I like that they were more experimental on the EP and more melodic, but at the same time, I kind of expect a certain level of intensity from the Acacia Strain. And since I know that they exclusively make music just for me, they were really nice. They were nice enough to put out Slow Decay, which was it has a little bit of that experimentation. Some of the more epic songs carry over kind of from the EP, but they are still just in your face, balls to the wall Acacia Strain, while mixing in a little bit of better elements. And I don't know, I really, really, really like how it all came together, because they're a band that I definitely would not have ever pegged as being a band that like had kind of more ethereal vibes to their music. And but no, they absolutely just blew it out of the water. Yeah, so Slow Decay is it's quite the banger, but also kind of makes you think a little bit. I'm trying to be super cerebral. I'm just a dude that loves like super sick breakdowns, and that's
there you go.
That's pretty much what the Acacia Strain is all the time. So it was cool that I was like, yeah, I think it's cool that you guys did this experimental thing, over here with this EP. Like, I can appreciate that. And then whenever they came out with the full length, they still 100% brought it, while still kind of keeping some of that from the EP. And as I frequently say on discography discussion, for a lot of these bands, I'm only here for Godzilla. And if Godzilla doesn't show up, then I'm disappointed. But Godzilla definitely showed up.
Grayson and I have a way of like describing just like completely brutal songs, and we just say it's ignorantly heavy.
Yep.
Ignorantly heavy.
Like just like it just destroy stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
yeah. Didn't that album chart really well too?
I don't really pay attention to that kind of stuff, but I think it actually did chart really well.
Yeah, I remember seeing a post from I forgot who it was, but I remember seeing a post, and which I'm stoked for. Those guys are awesome. Like, they're just honestly some of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
The guitarist from the Acacia Strain actually did the intro of music for BREWtally Speaking.
Really?
Yeah, that's his intro.
Devin
really
or
cool.
Tom did it. Yeah. Nice. That's cool. Huh. Good deal.
Yeah. John was just like, "Hey, you got any extra riffs like laying around? You want to just like grab one and throw it out there?" And what he ended up sending us was just disgustingly heavy. We were like, "Yep. That's what we want." It just that riff alone puts the brutal in BREWtally Speaking.
Nice. That's awesome.
So we are back to Grayson.
Oh man, we're back to me. Okay. All right. Well, I will say Guardians by August Burns Red. is my next one. To be like, actually, funny enough, I mean, this is like over a decade ago, but Joe is actually the one who introduced me to August Burns Red like a long time ago. And I remember, of course, like, you know, kind of dove back into things like Thrill Seeker. And then I think at that time, Messengers was already out, and then Constellations came out. And that kind of was just like, all right, this is my favorite. It still is my favorite ABR record to date. But I kind of lost, I don't know if I lost track or interest, but I kind of fizzled out of ABR from like Leveler to like Rescue and Restore and like Found in Faraway Places. But I think when Phantom Anthem came out, I kind of like perked up a little bit, like, oh, like, yeah. Okay, you know. And then when this album came out, I was like, ooh, all right. Like, to me, this Guardians is probably, I don't know how many people are getting mad about this, but Guardians is probably my second favorite ABR record, to be honest. And it's hard to say, like, some of it's time and place. Like when you hear something like Messengers and Constellations back in the day, it's like my mindset as a listener and as a musician was completely different. So part of it, I feel like, is the times, but I think Guardians was just, there's a lot of stuff on that record that, of course, there's a lot of heaviness, but there's certain melodic aspects that I feel like they tapped into in a special way that they hadn't really done since Constellations. Like melodically, I don't think it's the same at all, but just like there's a certain level of almost like melodic maturity that I feel like they tapped into in songs on this record that kind of just got me.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying too about, you know, like kind of August Burns Red was a band that was always so constantly putting out records that like you could go take a nap and wake up and there's 3 more August Burns Red records. Like they just and whenever we went through the discography for the discography discussion episode, we, you know, it was hard kind of realizing that the band did change, because I think initially, you know, you listen through their stuff and you're like, well, this all sounds the same. They've kind of sounded the same since Constellations. You know, that like they kind of found a formula and went with it. And they're a band that put out so many releases, and that the change is extremely gradual, that if you jump off board for 2 or 3 records and come back, that's whenever you start finding stuff that's kind of new and a little bit more interesting. It's not that they're not like 100% like technically proficient. They're one of the most technically proficient bands I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, yep. The changes though don't become, you know, totally apparent unless, yeah, like you said, you kind of jump off and then jump back on.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a great record. And oh, by the way, how they pressed the vinyl on that record is crazy. Because Joe, what did they do? Didn't they press it at half speed, right?
Yeah, they did a half speed master, and like paid extra to do that. Like I was nosy and I went around and figured out how much that would cost, and it's pricey. But I listened to it on my record player, and I was just kind of like, this is one of the best sounding records I've ever heard. Like, just sonically, you know, like, and the record itself is great, but just like in terms of like pure snobby audiophileness, I think
you wouldn't know anything about that, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
What does that word even mean?
You know, I thought about actually pulling out my Crosley Cruiser record player just to watch Joe throw up on the like. It's rough. Did I send you the video of me putting the Zao Blood and Fire record on that? I don't know
for fun. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Absolutely. It was like playing the record at like half speed. Like it was. That's how you cheaply play a record at half speed.
Yeah.
Go to Target, spend the $30.
Boom.
Get it home. Yep.
Oh man.
John, what do you got? What's your next one?
I'm gonna go with End, Splinters from an Ever-Changing Face.
Oh, so good.
That's
brutal.
I mean, I don't know if you
I think I need a new pair of pants after that. Sorry.
It's just one of those that it just scratches like pretty much every itch. I think the funny and interesting thing, like, talking to Brandon and Greg and everybody else. With Greg and Will and everyone being older than Brandon, like they're bringing in older hardcore influences and ideas and so forth, and you got Brendan who's like big into like early metalcore and stuff like that, like early It Dies Today and so forth. So you're kind of getting just this hodgepodge of all things great and heavy, and at times some of those styles you would think would kind of clash because they shouldn't go together, but they do in a really new and interesting way. And a lot of times you hear these things like super groups get thrown around, and it doesn't live up to the expectation of the pedigree of the band. And this is one that I think came out of nowhere, was fucking awesome, and then somehow even got better on a full record.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree. I think the addition of Billy Reimer, Dillinger Escape Plan is just like, I mean, like they were already just like awesome. I mean, like it's funny. I'm very choosy when it comes to hardcore, but I love a lot of metallic hardcore stuff. And, like I would, I think they end toured or just did like a few one-off shows with Advent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I wish I lived in the South gets all the good shows because all the bands are from there. So it's like, I was just like, oh man, I don't think anybody made it out alive from that show. That's what Legend has said.
One of my favorite sets I've ever seen from those like St. Vitus live things from wasn't Kerrang, but I forget who it is. But their set actually opening for Hope's Ball.
No, it was Kerrang.
Oh yeah.
Was it Kerrang? Okay.
Yeah, it was.
That end set where basically they play the entirety of their EP. It's one of the most like usually a band like that doesn't come across like just the intensity. Like you can't usually match the intensity of the record. But that was one where watching that thing, and I know Dan and I have talked about it a handful of times, where you're like, that might be like one of the most aggressive sets I've ever seen, not in person, where you're like, holy shit, this just comes across so well and reminds me of like when you used to watch those old like Hellfest DVDs and just see thousands of kids beating the shit out of each other to like 43% burnt and stuff like that. Like just the nostalgia attached to shit like that. And definitely a band I can't wait to see live, finally.
Yeah. Well, what's weird about that is like, I love Hope's Fall, but like, I remember watching that set and being like, did these guys just upstage like one of my favorite bands? Because like I love Hope's Fall, but can you imagine being in that room and watching that set and then Hope's Fall comes on? Like Hope's Fall is great. Yeah. But like for what they were playing versus what N was laying down was just, I mean, just it was outrageous. It was such a weird contrast.
We almost would have liked to go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it would have been interesting to go to one of those shows in North Carolina where it was Hope's Fall End and Violent Life, Violent Death.
One thing that should be noted as well is how Brandon has the ability to change his vocal style from counterparts.
Yeah.
Over and that is the most insane thing. I was like, how is that the same dude? And on top of that, he's like the funniest guy. I've seen a few interviews with that guy. And he just seems to have like a really great sense of humor. Even when they were doing the Audio Tree live for Counterparts, he was like cracking jokes, and then he's talking about like real deep emotional things. I'm like, whoa! Like it just like and it's just like a switch, and I'm just kind of like, whoa, dude. Yeah, that guy is true. The whole band is just truly talented and amazing. So
I lost track of whose turn. It's Joe's turn, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna. Hey, Grayson. When we were hanging out this weekend, and I turned to you, and I was like, "Hey, what am I listening to? What did I say?" You got it right too.
Oh, Misery Signals.
Yeah, Ultraviolet. I love that record so much. It's one that, yep, there you go.
Oh snap!
It's one that
must be nice.
I honestly, it's gotten me through this weird time. I've talked to Grayson about this, where it's funny because a band that typically is very aggressive, and especially their prior record, it's not the most positive, uplifting stuff. But this album, there's something very different. There's at least to me, a very strong sense of hope. Just even from the first lyrics of the first song, and there were it's just a record that I listen to repeatedly, and I still do, because it just, I don't know, it's had like a really positive effect on me, and the music is just beautiful, and yeah, fantastic band, fantastic release.
Yeah, that's Joe's. That's your summer hardcore, right? Compared to Counterparts, which is like your fall winter hardcore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, well, that's not Defeater?
No. I have a Defeater like 7-inch. They have like that gatefold 7-inch thing. And I like them. I just have never. It's kind of like Hope's Fall was for me way back in the day. I saw, I owned some Hope's Fall records, and I liked them, but it wasn't until I was older where I became obsessed with them. And it just took a while for it to just digest in my brain, my pea brain, for some weird reason. So, but but I definitely I like what they have to offer. I just haven't dived into it yet. So,
Dan, I think it's you. Or no?
Yeah,
it's you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, at the expense of being that guy, my pick is actually a record that hasn't come out yet. And
snap!
That is the new. It's not me just flexing the podcaster muscle. I promise. It's literally just I liked it that much, and that is the album Influenced by Everything in Slow Motion.
I knew you were going to say that one,
dude. It's been burning up my speakers, and I've only had maybe like 3 or 4 days with it now, and it's awesome. And it wasn't what I was expecting at all.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, Shane Oshner started off in Hands, which was a significantly heavier band than Everything in Slow Motion. It had more of kind of this post metal thing, and at this point in his career, I wasn't realistically expecting the record to be kind of this like post metal type of album, and I was correct. I mean, it was not that, but it's interesting because I've grown a much bigger appreciation in the last couple of years for more pop influenced hard rock, and there is a song on that record called Choke, which you can actually stream right now, and it's probably my top song on that record, just because like it's everything that I'm supposed to hate about like music, but it is so catchy, and I feel like Shane really pushed the limits of what his vocal range was on this record, and it's just, I don't know, it's one of those, it's impossible to describe because every single song on it has a different vibe.
It definitely does, though. I will say I've heard the record too.
Yeah.
I definitely will say that there is some post metal in there, sprinkled in there throughout
little bits, yeah.
And and they come in a way where it's like when you least expect it, but it fits so well. And I just can't help but smile. I'm like, oh, okay, he's like giving a little wink and a nod to the OG fans, and I completely agree about Choke. It's a beautiful song. And it's funny because I know he's also a huge Jimmy Eat World fan. And you could definitely hear that sprinkled in some of the songs as well, with kind of like the picking guitar parts and whatnot. And but yeah, and the production is top notch. It's
ridiculously top notch.
Yes,
like it's one of the slickest. Like, I'm just gonna say it. It's one of the slickest sounding records that I've heard come from that label. Like it is. It sounds like it was released on a major, you know, and it just absolutely blows my mind how good it was and how every single song is distinctly different. from all the others. And if this was discography discussion, I'd be like, well, that's a bad thing. It was directionless and they blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to take that hat off for this episode and just say that it was absolutely what I wanted to hear, because as I get older, I'm tired of hearing a record that's just one thing from beginning to end, unless it's, end. But like,
did you see that service that Grayson just got?
Yeah, dude.
Just like somebody just, serving him up a beer, like, I mean, dude, he's got it like that.
He's like, it's DoorDash, man. I had to pay $30 for that.
It's there's brew in the title of this thing. I'm just trying to be, when in Rome.
Yeah.
No,
what are you drinking?
So I just finished an 805.
Okay.
Firestone, and now it's a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. So
nice.
Representing California today.
I'm drinking like little kid beer. Not little kid, that was in bad taste, but I don't know, it's like salted caramel. It's salted caramel. And it tastes like, it's so good. So like I let my wife take a sip of this the other night, because it was like an 18 pack, and I'm only going to drink 17 of those for this episode. But yeah, so I drank one of these. I let my wife sip it, and she said it was the best tasting beer she's ever tasted. Now, she didn't like it by any means, but but she did say that it was the best beer she'd ever tasted. So, it was, yeah. I'm sticking with the pumpkin. I do this like once a year, and then I jump off of it.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I got to do some Oktoberfests before they're gone. It's a good point.
Yeah, you should have started buying those up 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
Gee, do you have another album?
Yeah. But yeah, really quick, shout out to my girlfriend for, as Joe said, the awesome service. I like legitimately, I have like my phone in Messenger right here on my other screen, and like while you guys are talking, I was just like, babe, my beer's out, and she's like, all right, I'll be right there. Best ever. Can you
We'll see how it goes.
Oh snap. Oh, look what we've started.
Perfect.
Okay. Third album, and this is in no particular order, but the next album that I have is from a band that I actually have not really listened to in a very long time, and again released a record this year that surprised me. So it's A Beautiful Place to Drown by Silverstein.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I mean, like back in I don't know how I remember it like this, but like the Taste of Chaos days, like that's when I got into them with Discovering the Waterfront, of course, was like the big record by them. And then I know I listened to like the next one or two after that a little bit here and there, but honestly, since then hadn't really paid too much attention to that band. And I don't remember, I think it was probably in the recommended albums list of I have YouTube Music, so I was on there and it was in the recommended, and I was like, oh, like let's kind of see what's up with Silverstein nowadays. So I put it on. The very first song was a song called Bad Feelings, and it kind of has like this punky element to it that was like kind of cool. But I listened to the whole thing and I just remember like it was really catchy, and then it also features Aaron Marshall from Intervals, because it said featuring Intervals, and I'm thinking like, okay, is that like Aaron from Intervals? Because usually it's like when you say featuring, it's like a person from a band and not a band. So I'm wondering, like, honestly, I was like, is this like a rapper or something named Intervals? That's not like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But then I get to the bridge of the song and it just drops into this total like Intervals, like 2 albums ago section that's super melodic and has like the low guitars and everything. And I was just like, whoa, like, so that's what got me to keep listening to the whole record. And I listened to the rest of the record and it was just really good. And I think I found myself buying the vinyl the next day or something. So, yeah, that one was a really pleasant surprise this year that I was, usually it's like, you get albums that you're anticipating from bands that, and this was definitely one that I was not anticipating, that kind of just caught me by surprise in a really good way.
That's 2 bands with dudes named Shane in them in a row.
Perfect. It's true.
Let's see,
What do you got, John? What do you got? What do you got sitting on your lap that you can't wait to show us?
Well, we already did Misery Signals, so I'll go ahead and say that as well.
Perfect.
It was I mean, kind of the perk of becoming friends with Jesse through, social media over the last 3 years or so. But the excitement of getting that link when he's like, hey, this is like the band link that we're sharing with people, like not even like we're not with a press company or whatever. So it wasn't like a media link. So there was a little bit more like bit of like, oh God, like what if someone gets this? Because it's not behind a shitload of walls or anything. It was literally a link on SoundCloud. And
unlisted.
Yeah, unlisted. And it was a thing where, the expectations, I think, for a lot of us who have been fans since basically of Malice and the Magnum Heart, first record back with Jesse. And I mean, I've said this and I feel sort of like a dick for saying this since I'm like friends with half of the people that were involved in this part of the project, but Absent Light was a big miss for me. And potentially we'll get to talk to some of the dudes about that worked on that and kind of get, a little bit more backstory on that. But I feel like this is a great return to form sonically. I think the fact that literally every iteration of all the eras of the band from Jesse and of Malice and having the original band back, having Devin helping with some pre-pro, having Greg basically get a second shot at doing a Misery Signals record after doing most of Absent Light. And just, I think it was a home run. And, even like I said in our chat, you kind of touched on it, Joe, Controller is probably my favorite Misery Signals record. It just sonically sounds huge. And Carl's voice, the way I think they triple track them or whatever, just makes it sound fucking massive. But the thing that I still feel has changed from this record is, whereas before it just was like kind of doom and gloom, what Malice is about, basically the accident that took away Jesse's old bandmates and so forth. And that's just permeating through that record. So there's always just a sense of loss and it's heavy. And at times it's really awkward sort of listening to Jesse's lyrics because I don't feel like you should be hearing some of those people's like honest emotions like that. This one, however, was one of the first ones where I felt that, yeah, like it's not all super great, but it's the first to really have a bit of optimism at the end of it. Like shit sucks, but it'll get better. And sometimes like that, just that little bit of nuance, I guess, to it sort of makes it take on a different light. No pun intended, but take on a different light. So it lived up to my expectations. I know I've seen a lot of people who are like, well, wasn't as good as I was expecting or whatever. But I mean, for me, especially after watching that documentary they put out and seeing the stuff of having to reform friendships and all the expectations on it, I think they did a great job.
Do we ever figure out why he kept calling you Johnny through everything?
He always calls me that.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? As stupid as it sounds, it's like if Jesse from Misery Signals wants to give me a nickname, I'm totally fine with that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Nice.
Joe, what do you got?
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Oh man. Okay, so I'm gonna choose one that came out very early this year, and these guys are some of the most humble and hardworking guys that I've ever met. They've, I feel so bad that like once they released the record, it just this COVID thing happened, and like it's I know they were really looking forward to getting a lot of things going, but that's Taming Tongues by Dens.
Nice.
I was going to say, I have a feeling Joe's going to take my fourth one. That was my fourth one.
Oh, well,
no.
I'm sorry. I just have such great music taste.
Dude,
so
a lot of bars are on the same list.
So like borrowing from John, borrowing from Grayson, it's all good. But
this record was so good.
It's really good. And it's I think that's another album that again, the production on it is also extremely good as well. And I love every song has its own vibe, but what really comes to mind for me is the vulnerability that kind of exists and just kind of seeps through every song. And every song is just as emotional and well thought out as the last. And it's kind of cool to hear, they're all their different styles, because they're all into different styles of music as well. They're not all like, they all bring something new to the table. Oh, and Sean, one of the best vocalists in the underground scene, bar none. He's got an amazing voice. He did an acoustic set right before the weekend of Facedown Fest over at a record store that I used to work at, that Grayson and I were at. And I mean, that dude is a powerhouse. It's insane. And another thing to mention is Josh Waltman's guitar playing. Like his take on metal, like that song "Foolish" that features Leroy from War of Ages. It's so cool because it's definitely a metal song.
Yeah.
But it's not, because that guy's not a metal dude per se, Josh. Like, it's his interpretation of what metal is. And so the riffs are very unique for a metal song. And so I as a person who, I'm engrossed in the metal scene. So like it was cool to hear like a different take of genre that I absolutely adore. So yeah,
that record was disgustingly good. Like it really it's funny too, because like the first time I heard it, I was in the mood for something like way heavier, so I listened to it and I was like, it's not that, but it was a grower, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those, like, I listened to it whenever I was feeling like less metal.
Wait, I thought you were always metal. Always.
All the time. Absolutely. I definitely haven't been listening to a bunch of trap music on SoundCloud all day. I definitely have not been doing that. I'm supposed to be listening to all the Amon Amarth albums for Saturday, but I've only gotten into like 3. It's like, yeah, I get it. It's Vikings, it's melodic death metal, it's fine. But it does the thing that it's supposed to do. Like, the end. Thanks. But actually, so, and I didn't mean to make this as like, because it seems like a lot of the bands I'm picking are from just like one specific label, but the record that kind of came out of nowhere for me this year was American Arson, A Line in the Sand. And I had actually I'd never heard an American Arson song prior to booking an interview. My buddy David Van Zant set the interview up, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I could do this because I've never heard a single song by this band before. Basically the name of John's autobiography. But it's like, but I was like, I've never heard. So like, I listened to some of their like older material or whatever, and I didn't really know kind of what to expect. It was a little out of my comfort zone as far as like, because I don't listen to a whole lot of rock. But there was just something about this band that they were super energetic, and they sound like a full band, even though it's only 2 dudes. And like, these dudes absolutely won me over just by like talking to them. And whenever the record finally came out, I was actually pretty floored, because I was like, wow, this is actually like way better than I was expecting it to be. Their singer has an amazing voice, and he's got like a whole Dave Grohl thing going on, and he just sings with aggression. And I'm not really doing it justice here, but like, I have a feeling that this band is going to go a lot further than maybe even they anticipated. I feel like if people actually listen to that record and they actually dig into the lyrics and like as to what they're actually saying, these guys have mass appeal. They kind of remind me of like almost reminds me of like older like Rise Against, like that. That's sort of like say. Yeah, like that sort of like really energetic punk rock, but like a heavier emphasis on the rock part of it,
yeah.
But yeah, that record absolutely blew me away, and it was out of my comfort zone, and I I absolutely just I was floored by it, and I was like, man, I'm really glad that I ordered this, like because I really wasn't sure, and then we did our interview or whatever, and they're like, no, dude, it's like this, and so they were able to kind of explain to me like what the songs were going to be about and like all of that stuff, and absolutely, like, check them out. Like they have their biggest song I think right now is a song called "Drop Your Daggers," and it's one of the best hit singles I've ever heard from like that music scene. It absolutely packs a punch, and it's applicable to pretty much everybody right now, especially with current world events. And that's as much as I'm going to say, because I'm a coward and I don't want to make any huge statements. But it is what it is. Yeah, American Arson, Line in the Sand, totally awesome. They drew a line in the sand. I didn't, but it's a cool record to listen to.
Nice. Cool. By the way, if I'm like all pixelated or something, I apologize. For some reason, my internet loves to just be blazing fast, like during work hours. And then once the sun goes down, it's just like, okay, like the internet's like, I'm going to go to sleep too. So I was like,
you're all good, dude.
That's what I was doing. I was like trying to clear stuff so that the tower outside of my room could link it. It was a pain to get internet into this room when I moved in. So
we can see you, we can hear you, we can see the Lightworker logo behind you with your head right in the arch. It's amazing. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I admittedly went a little extra on that, but okay, awesome. Just so we can keep like the whole even 5 going, I'll revisit Taming Tongues from Dens super quick.
Do it.
That was a pick as well. But I'll just that record, I mean, honestly, that band is a band that like I knew of course, like Joe's been listening to them since Joe, was it like when the EP came out on Face Down, No Small Tempest?
Yeah.
And so fun fact, before COVID started here in the US, like before the whole quarantine thing happened, we did play one show. We played one show at the beginning of March, which is the only time that we've ever played any song from our record live to anybody. We played Empire, and that was the only, like, we only played one. We didn't even play like more songs. That was it. We played one song. It was like, here's a teaser, and we'll see you next year, maybe.
You guys all better buy t-shirts because it's going to be a rough year. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we played that show, but we played that show with Dens, and Deathbreaker and Comrades, because they were all like heading down to Face Down. So Joe did an awesome job putting together kind of like this show in San Jose as like a since all these bands were coming out from different states, like, let's do a Bay Area show, and then you guys go down and do Face Down. So we played it with Dens, and that's how I kind of got into that record. And I remember specifically there's a song, because it's really cool, right? The whole record, I think it's 11 songs, and it reads an entire sentence, like if you read all the song titles all the way through. Yep. So the 4th track, R, which is the softest song on the record, which features Laura from Comrades. I remember Joe actually told me before I listened to the record, he was like, dude, there's a song on there that you are just absolutely going to love. And I know when you hear it, you're going to text me and you're going to tell me what it is, and it'll be right. And it was that song. And I remember listening to that song. I don't remember where I was, but I just remember hearing it and kind of just stopping whatever I was doing and just listening to the whole thing until the song was done. And to me, it's like a perfect fall song. And there's certain songs or certain albums in songs that I listen to where it's almost like you forget that you're listening to a song, right? Because it's like when you're listening to music, you know that you're listening to music and you can get really into it and you can get the vibe of everything. But I feel like, for me at least, there's certain songs where I listen to and I forget that I'm listening to a song because I get so immersed into it that I can literally just like sink into it melodically. And that was one of those songs. So that alone just made me go, okay, this record is amazing, even if I don't listen to the rest of the album. But I did, and it was still like ended up being like an amazing record. But that song in particular was one that kind of just got me. And right when September 22nd hit, that went on my fall playlist, and I was looping it. So yeah.
Noise.
Is that back on me?
You're on the spot, John.
Yes, sir.
Better throw something out great.
I mean, I think it's great. I don't know how people are going to feel about it, but
Swear
Dua
to God,
Lipa's...
if it's Kanye.
No, Kanye only put out an EP, so you don't count those.
Fair enough.
But no, the Dua Lipa Future Nostalgia is a fucking great record. It's pop. It's interesting. I really dig. I mean, the whole point of it, is that she's taking a lot of songs that are old, and taking parts of it and implementing them in ways that are kind of fresh. So, like, one of the first singles that she put out used the guitar melody from NXS's "Need You Tonight" for, I think, the chorus. And then there's another one that borrows, blanking on it off the top of my head, but like that's kind of like the fun thing about it. And I love the idea basically that she went into it and with a loose concept of like, future nostalgia. It's a new record that no one's heard, but we're taking old influences and putting them into kind of what we're doing to make it a little bit of that nostalgia thing. Something for me listening to a lot of pop radio that my wife listens to, and even some of the hip hop, is it's weird to see some of the samples of shit that I grew up listening to. So like, I don't remember who the artist is, but they used Fastballs Out of My Head.
Oh, okay.
But like that was like their second single and it flopped. It was a failure compared to, The Way and whatever other single they had. Or I think it was their third single actually. But it's like you took someone's third fail single and created a smash hit, like probably a top 10 hit, with their chorus melody and even some of the lyrics. And it's like, it's wild to see how artists and producers are taking shit from 20 some odd years ago when I was in like high school and flipping it and making it something that it was surprisingly like, it's one of those where you're like, well, shit, if it's like this good and people are like digging it now, it's like, why the fuck wasn't this a hit like 20 some odd years ago?
Yeah.
And, it reminds me, I think like I was telling my wife, I was like, well, I mean, look at Aerosmith, like Dream On was like one of their first singles and it didn't do anything. And then they re-released it, all these years, like years later, and it became a smash hit after they had already built up some success. And I just, it's one of those where, the music industry is littered in all kinds of genres of bands or people who put out music, and it just doesn't catch. And then for whatever reason, it catches like years later. And then it's like a band will have like a whole new career. Like look at Fleetwood Mac, great example. Dreams was always a great song, but for whatever reason, people are only hearing about it now from TikTok, that video of that dude riding a skateboard. And then it was the number one song on iTunes and like netted the band like a top 10 hit for the first time in like 40 years. So, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes like if you are a fan of music, sometimes the industry and what cycles around just is so interesting how things will get repurposed in a different way. So sometimes it ruins a lot of music for me because like, like I'm not necessarily the biggest fan really at all of this band, but like, and if Maddie Mullins from Memphis Mayfire sees this, I'm sorry, but that first single that they put out, the Old Me, that's totally the beginning of the Old Me. It's totally Breaking Benjamin's Diary of Jane. Motionless in White basically has become a goth version of Breaking Benjamin. It's the same fucking chorus melodies. It's the same structures, basically. It's just they are a goth band, quote unquote, and they have heavy parts. But it's like for everyone that shits on Breaking Benjamin, I'm like, y'all motherfuckers like so many bands steal their ideas and their melodies and so forth. So Colin Spade said, no, I mean
100%. No, I mean 100%.
I can prove it. I think I played you those clips.
You have. You sent me a side by side. Yeah.
So Dua Lipa though. Dua Lipa's future nostalgia. It's a great record. Something completely different than probably anything on anyone else's list, but it's great for what it is.
And I think we're gonna turn it over to Joe.
Oh, it's my turn.
Oh yeah.
I know. I threw you for a loop with Dua Lipa. You're like, oh fuck.
Spotlight.
No, I actually had some questions. So, like, I mean, so it's straight up like sampling, or are they kind of re-recording the parts and
So
making
it's.
their own?
I would definitely say in the sense of Dua Lipa, the way because like I definitely think they're re-recording the part that they want.
Mhm.
So I think that technically becomes what an interpolation, I think is what they call that in technical terms. I'm not entirely sure, but basically, yeah, like it's almost like I mean, I don't know, you see so much of it like in hip hop, like Tyga is notoriously bad at doing this, like where he'll just straight lift bars from other rappers. Like on the Chris Brown Tyga Fan of a Fan record, there's one song and it straight up is like them lifting bars from other hip hop songs. And then you're like, that's rapping? Like I can take someone else's shit, like from Forgot About Dre. I can take basically the lyrics from Forgot About Dre and then like throw on like a half of like probably like a 16 bar section after like the part they already lifted, change my thing, and then the next person. But like the more I kind of thought about it, it's like that is kind of cool because like the beat sort of feels like that. They use this and everyone's using different parts of that. Like, and they even had Pusha T on the song. And I think the song's called Don't Get It Fucked Up. But it's yeah, like it was a thing where I was like, I can't believe like you can just straight lift as much now as some artists are. And it's like you're not even, I don't know how much creativity is going into that, but I don't know. But at least like with the Dua Lipa record, like it's fun and it's almost like one of those, like a lot of it is pulling from like mid to late 80s, early 90s stuff. So it's kind of like right in my wheelhouse of like radio listening and so forth and like MTV generation type shit. So I really like it. I think she's got a great voice. It's really been hard to go between her, Kalani, or Doja Cat, which I hate that I like that new Doja Cat record, but there's like her vocal melodies are so fucking well produced that you're just like, God, it's so good.
I'm into that.
Plus they're good looking, so that helps too.
So, well, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up and check that out. Because
I always feel like the asshole. I always feel like the asshole in discography discussion because this is the kind of shit I pull. Because they'll be like, "Hey, do you want to do something this weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, sure." And they're like, "What's the record of the week?" I'm like, "I've been listening." Like the last time I was on, I think with the Acacia Strain, it was like, "Yeah, I've been listening to Crazy Sexy Cool by TLC," which I have been. But
and I'm always like, yeah, I don't really know who this guy is. He's just a guy we randomly pulled in off the street. It's no big deal. You're not worse than Jeff though. Jeff, every single week, it's like Sunny Day Real Estate. Yeah, just more Sunny Day Real Estate. I'm like, yeah, dude. I mean, like, did you even listen to the records we talked about tonight? Because it sounds like you just listened to Sunday Day Real Estate. Like that's all I'm picking up from here. I mean, granted, I'm no better. Like every single week, I'm like, yeah, probably Zayo's Blood and Fire. You know, it's probably like my album of the week.
You guys like Josh Hogan?
Been listening to that record for the last 20 years. You know, it's fine. I got
probably,
a new sweet copy on vinyl. It skips. Yeah,
that's probably me in Jimmy Eat World. Honestly, it's like
this is true.
Yeah, it's like all I listen to.
I did get a little bit of a chuckle when I saw your post earlier, and it was Jimmy Eat World. I was like, "Yep, that checks out."
Yeah, see. But I do. I'm trying to think which record I want to share because I don't know if we're gonna have time for an honorable mention or not. So
we have time. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So in that case, my absolute favorite record of the year, and this is in particular order because it's taking the #1 spot. I thought you were about to say it, Grayson, because you took a breath and you're like,
Dude, are we at #1s?
Yeah, I think so, aren't we?
Yep, we're on the last record.
Okay. Cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Yep. For me, it's On Circles by Caspian. So
you're right. I was gonna say it.
Yeah,
I got scared.
Yeah, no, it is. That talk about a band that I'm very much a diehard fan to the point where I actually flew out last November to go see them perform a one-off show with a 9-piece orchestra. And I went by myself. I didn't know anybody out there. I actually ended up befriending some of the friends of the band, and they took me out to a party, like an after party and stuff like that. And it was a great time. And just, I don't know, there was something about being over there where they're from and just kind of being immersed in, it's like, wow, this is the town where they write their records. You know what I mean? And I've always thought that I was born on the wrong coast. I think I'm definitely more of an East Coast kind of guy, and I felt very much at home over there. And but yeah, the record itself is just it's beautiful. I've been waiting 5 years for it because they took a hiatus, which isn't super long compared to a lot of other bands. I mean, we just got. What's that?
Said refused.
Yeah, exactly. Refused, freaking, I mean, we're still, I mean, D'Angelo would be another great example. Wasn't that like 20 years?
Yep.
Not quite, because that last record came out when I was still in high school, and I will have graduated 20 years ago this year, actually. So that came out 2017, I think, because it came out before Kendrick Lamar. So 17 years. I mean, close, but
close. Yeah. I mean, it's still a long time,
Still a great record, though.
Yeah. I mean, and I love Black Messiah and Voodoo. Like those records.
Voodoo is such one of my. I mean,
yeah, exactly. That's fire. The definition of fire. But anyway, more about Caspian. Yeah, like I've never listened to a band or an artist that has been able to make me feel. I just feel, honestly, like all the emotions and the variety of I don't know. They've got something for everything. I mean, there's songs of hope and since they're largely an instrumental band, it really becomes, I think, a lot more personal, because you have your own interpretations as to what these songs are about. And, it's funny because I don't really get starstruck. And Grayson can tell you this. I just go up to anybody and I talk to them. Just like, what's up, dude?
Very true.
Yeah. And so, but when it comes to like these guys in this band, especially like, I guess who they would consider the band leader, Phil Jameson, I get starstruck. I don't know why. Like freaking Bono could be right next to him and I would be like, hey, Bono. Anyway, Phil, dude, like I just get very, and
hey, Bono, can you go get us some drinks?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, you got money, like,
yeah,
but,
right. Got money.
but it's, I feel like I have this because it's funny because they've definitely put themselves out there, like in terms of like they've released one of their concerts on Blu-ray. They have got interviews and stuff like that, but for whatever reason, there's still an inherent mysterious vibe about them that I don't know what it is. I can't even pinpoint it, but it's very, I'm very drawn to that band. And each one of their albums brings something new to the table, and it's definitely all peaks and valleys. And On Circles is one of those records that it's definitely, I don't know, it touches on everything. And also, along with the Misery Signals Ultraviolet record is something that has gotten me through 2020. And I was actually lucky enough that was, aside from the show that we played with Dens and Comrades and Deathbreaker, seeing Caspian live was the last band I saw before this whole thing happened. Like I saw them in February. So, and we, in California, I think we went into lockdown early March.
Yeah. Yeah. Just about.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I saw them like kind of late February or so. And it's funny because actually Grayson's girlfriend and our bass player's girlfriend went with me to that show because the dudes couldn't go. And then, and Misty's already a fan. Grayson's girlfriend's already a fan of Caspian.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She was like, she was like, oh, I really want to see him. Can I come with you? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then we kind of like, we're like, hey, Courtney, want to go? And Courtney's the kind of person who's all like, are they cool? yeah, all right, let's go. Like, so she just went with us, and after the show, they would just looked at me and they were like, "That was so good, so good."
February, right?
Yeah, that was in February.
Where the heck was I? I do not remember what I was doing in February.
Probably some Grayson thing. I don't know.
Oh, no, I was in Dublin. Okay.
Oh yeah. He was having some Guinness.
I was
Nice.
having some real Guinness.
Yeah.
From the source. Yeah.
I mean, it's still real. If you put it in a can and mail it to me, it's still real.
True, but I found out. I guess this is what I've heard, and after tasting it in Ireland, I believe, because I'm not a huge stout guy. Like honestly, like I'm very big on IPAs. I'm not really into stouts. So I heard that real Guinness, quote unquote, you can only get in Ireland. And if you get it from anywhere else in the world, it comes from a different factory, I think in Canada or something. But everyone always says like Guinness tastes different in Ireland, and that's because it's actually brewed in Ireland, and everywhere else it's like Guinness is quote unquote outsourced, I guess.
Interesting.
But yeah, so if anyone's ever in Ireland, try it on tap compared to like anywhere else. And honestly, it is different because I actually liked it there. I don't really like it in general, but I liked it there.
That's interesting.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Do. Yeah. Well, my next pick is. It's weird because I feel like I'm still at 4. Because I feel
You
like
are, technically.
We are.
Okay. Because I did. Yeah, because I did. What record bills? Let's see. Acacia Strain, Everything in Slow Motion, American Arson. Okay, yeah. So I'm up to date here. Okay, so my other pick is probably no surprise to anybody that listens to this show or my other show, but it's Testament, Titans of Creation, which dropped. It dropped right while Chuck Billy had COVID-19. So that was rough for him. Not as much for me, but I did actually get to talk to Chuck Billy after he
made a headline with that.
Did we make a headline for it?
You did, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I don't make a whole lot of headlines. John gets all the headlines. So
I mean, you got a juicy one with that. Every one you do, though, you get a fucking nice headline. That Zayo episode.
I know the Zayo one was outrageous. Dare I say, legendary? But Jeff Gretz just unfriended me. No, but like there's but no, it's this Testament record is absolutely like. If you've been a fan of Testament for a long time, they're not going to reinvent the wheel on this record. They are absolutely not necessarily pushing their sound forward. But during a year where it was kind of just full of uncertainty, because I mean, when COVID originally hit, I mean, I feel like now. Like we've all kind of gotten used to the way things are, which like it still sucks, but like we've gotten used to it. But back then when that record came out, it was just really refreshing for me to hear a new Testament record of Testament doing their thing. And they're the thrash metal band that I've listened to for a good portion of my life at this point. All my friends used to, it was always a argument about who's better, Metallica or Megadeth, and I'm just like Testament. Testament is the better band of all of that, and they stayed metal like through all the trends, through all the stuff. Like when Metallica was putting out the Black Album, Testament put out an album called Demonic, which was just like super brutal. Chuck Billy's doing death growls. Like they kept it metal in a way that I feel like a lot of bands from that era didn't keep it metal. So with this new record, Titans of Creation, it is definitely a stronger swing towards thrash. But like you have to consider how cool it is in 2020 that these thrash legends or these thrash titans are still playing that style of music, and they're still putting it out at a level that a lot of the bands that came out of their scene probably couldn't even play anymore. Like Chuck sounds amazing. Even after he had coronavirus, he still sounded amazing, at least on the phone. And but it's just one of those things. Like it really, they're a legacy band. This is a legacy record, and for all those people out there that are all like, yeah, man, you remember Metallica? They put out their newest record, and it kind of sounded like a little bit like mid-90s Metallica. Why compromise? Why not just like listen to a band that plays the kind of music that you showed up for? And that's what Testament has ultimately done with this record, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorites so far, and I can't wait. Like I can't wait to hear them do something else soon, because this record dropped so weird. The beginning of 2020 feels like 3 years ago. Yeah, it's so weird. It's only been a few months, but like I feel like I did that interview last year. I even had to double check and make sure the record came out in 2020 because I honestly couldn't remember.
I think I saw Testament with Magod and Killswitch Engage, and they were so good. They were so good, and they still had energy. They still, they're just bringing it, man, and so much fun live. And it's funny that you mentioned Testament, not like no compromise, and I feel like, tell me if you guys agree with this, but I almost feel like the band that is from like I guess the early 2000s new wave of American heavy metal that is kind of following that path is actually Unearth. I feel, because they've done different aspects of heavy, but they've always been them. It's Unearth, and they're also one of the best live bands I've ever seen. Just so much fun, so much fun. I've seen them like I think 3 or 4 times, and I saw them on the Oncoming Storm tour where they played every song, and they were just so good. And then Grayson and I saw them opening up for Killswitch.
Yeah,
and our friend, she's like from like Eastern Europe, and she had never really been to a metal show before, and she decided to wear like a white shirt in a sea of black shirts with like metal logos and everything. She was wearing a white shirt, and she managed to get up on stage and she stage dove, and she had never done that before, and she was just kind of like, I love American metal. So
That's
it was
awesome.
it was cool. But
Unearth always brings it, man. Every single time.
It's
no
compromise.
Sure thing. It's a sure thing. And like, without being insulting to them, it's kind of like a McDonald's cheeseburger. You know what you're gonna get, and you love it. But it's always the same experience every single time, and that's not a bad thing. I think in the world of music criticism, it's easy to be like, well, this band's not innovative, and that's kind of like, if I'm wearing my music criticism hat, I can say like the New Testament record isn't really pushing the boundaries, but like these guys have been around forever. Like, how long can you expect a band like that to quote unquote push the boundaries? There has to be a certain sense of these dudes are just playing what they like to play.
Yeah.
And the songs are good. It's everything that you would want out of that band this year. And they killed it. And that was 90%. I can't even remember what the headline was that I asked him, but it was something along the lines of like, because Slayer was doing their farewell tour, and I think I asked something along the lines of like if they felt like they were kind of taking Slayer's place in that, like in the minds of metal fans or something like that. And I didn't even come up with that question. John fed me that question before we did the interview. But yeah, regardless of whatever Chuck said, and I can't even remember at this exact moment, but regardless of what he said, I definitely think that is the case. with a lot of these bands, whereas all the eyes might be on Metallica, or they might be on Megadeth, or they might be on some of these other legacy acts. Testament has always kind of been over in their own corner doing their thing. And it's really cool that when these other bands have kind of fallen away, I feel like fans of that older style of thrash metal are starting to kind of really recognize, oh, okay, that was the headline. Okay, I see that now. Okay, it's right in front of me. Yeah, cool. So it was not that question. So what I said was irrelevant. Again, somebody's been talking to my kids. I'm not fun. I'm not relevant. But yeah, like 100%. Like this is the best thrash metal band that you probably don't listen to regularly, and they have a new record out in 2020, and it's killer. All the leads, all the solos, everything that made you originally, if you're a guitar player, pick up a guitar and want a solo. Testament's doing all that. And they're still doing it, and they're doing it stronger than they ever have. That's been my 45-minute presentation on Testament. Oh, that can count as 2 entries if you guys are like tired or something.
No, man, you were up there. You were preaching the good word, man. I was engaged, man. I was like, I hear you.
I was trying to clear my mouth out because I just drank this beer called Mexican hot chocolate, and
My friend goes, "Hey, I just got these Stone Brewing Mexican hot chocolate beers. What do you think of these?" I go, "Dude, for some reason, Mexican hot chocolate beers are never good. Like I've never had a good one."
Let me be real with you right now.
That probably tastes like shit, doesn't it?
No, it tasted actually really good. But my mouth is literally on fire. This is O'Fallon Brewing from here in St. Louis.
Pumpkin pack?
This is my pumpkin pack. Yeah, this is a pumpkin on it. It fits somehow. It says a Mexican hot chocolate pumpkin stout. I didn't really taste any of the pumpkin. All I tasted was the fire.
I did not know that was a thing. By the way, my girlfriend just texted me and said, "Dude," in all 4 like caps, saying that sounds bomb. So
absolutely, that's cool.
I don't know. I guess we'll try it too.
I mean, but I feel like I just ate a handful of fire ants. It is. I was like, dude, man, just keep talking. It'll feel better.
Have you ever seen that? There's that one dude who likes to get bitten by insects and stuff on National Geographic or something.
Does he like to, or does he get paid really well to?
No.
I'm pretty sure it's the second one. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but like he actually goes to the Amazon to like, and he's hanging out with his tribe and stuff, and they're just chilling, and then they're basically like, "Hey, you want to be a real man?" And he was like, "I am a real man," and they're like, "Nah, you got to do this first." And so what they do is they like put steam in like an anthill where all these ants live, and then they knock them out, put them inside this freaking glove. And they get 2 of them, and they put his hands in there, and then they wake up, and then you just see him. He's just hanging out. He's like, and then all of a sudden he's like, he's running around, and he just can't do anything about it. And then they're like, "Take the pain."
No, man, that's the bullet ant. That's totally different. That's like the rite of passage of that tribe. I remember. Yeah, I remember watching that. No, the bullet ant is supposed to be like there's something, I forget this guy, and it's named after him, of course, but it's like this pain index of insect bites and stings. And I think the bullet ant is I think it's labeled as the worst insect bite in the world. Not sting, but it's like, yeah, because you see him and they're doing a dance and they're holding his hands up and his hands are in the gloves, and after a while they're like dragging him because he's hallucinating. And
it's gnarly.
That's bad.
It's weird that the conversation has gone in this direction, but like the funny story is that like, so for his birthday, my wife got my son a ant farm. Just like one of those like
filled up with those bullet ants.
Oh my god! So they weren't. I don't think they were bullet ants, but they were really large ants. So like my wife was like she's kind of like into bugs. Like she knows a lot about bugs and stuff. So we get these ants in the mail. They just mail us a test tube full of ants, right? For the for the ant farm. Yeah,
What?
no joke. They just mailed us a test tube of ants.
They just go into their backyard and they're just like, "Oh, here you go."
Yeah, for real. But like, what was weird about it is that like they so they send us these ants, and it says in the instructions like you need to put the test tube in the refrigerator for however long because it like puts the ants to sleep or something.
Yeah.
So you can easily transfer them from the test tube into the ant farm. Well, my wife's like, I know more about bugs than the instructions, so she just opens it up, and then ants start crawling out all over the kitchen table, and we managed to catch most of them, right? But they were like big ants. They were like they were big. They were not like the ants that are in my backyard, because like I'm like dead center in the Midwest, right? So our ants are like super, super tiny, but these are like big, like Nevada ants, like they're gigantic. So like my wife, like quick as could be, she like closes the test tube, throws the remaining ants into the refrigerator like she was supposed to, but the other ones she caught like individually. Well, I've got 4 kids, so like they're all trying to like help, so they're like catching ants in their hands and like putting them into the ant farm. And at this point, my daughter, one of my daughters, she's like she has an ant, and then she goes, "Ow!"
Uh-oh.
And I was like, did one of those ants bite you? No, it stung her, because it turns out that these ants that we have are called red harvester ants. And
what
like
kind of
apparently
company is freaking shipping this stuff
for a kid's ant farm, right? And well, this thing stings her. This thing stings her, and she's like howling in pain, like just howling in pain. And so I'm like, what is going on here? So like, I get my phone out. I'm like Googling, because she's like, oh, it hurts, and I'm like, eat your dinner, because I'm like, how bad can an ant bite? How bad can an ant bite actually be? You know, right? Like you're 1,000 times bigger than the ants. Like it's fine. But then I look it up, and they're saying that like red harvester ants, like their venom is like the most powerful ant venom that's out there. And like, yeah, and this girl's like little. I mean, she's not any taller than like my desk down here, you know, like,
Oh my gosh.
and the some scientist or whatever described the pain of being stung by a harvester ant is the same as like having somebody driving like a drill bit into your toenail.
I'm sorry.
I was just like, oh my God, like why would they? I mean, obviously we should have put them in the fridge first.
Yeah,
like obviously, because when we transferred the rest of the ants, into the ant farm, they were all asleep. Like their instructions were like absolutely correct. But like, yeah, so she just put up with that. And like this morning, I was like, this was last night, by the way. So this morning she's like, I'm like, how's your finger or whatever? She's like, oh, it's okay, it's fine. And I was like, either the information I read on these ants is incorrect, or my kid is like 400 times tougher than I am. like beyond, like I would have started screaming. I probably would have started crying, and I definitely would have gone to the hospital like immediately. Like
it would have been like my girl with
my God,
I hope you guys don't go for like, I hope you guys don't get like a beehive and then like all of a sudden it's like, oh, it happens to be African killer bees.
Please don't say that. Please don't say that. Please don't. I'll send you guys a picture of the ants in the ant farm, and you guys can judge for yourselves.
Dude, now I want one of these things.
They're cool, man. Like they're all the ants are like tunneling down into the sand and stuff. Like it's actually super cool, despite the issues that we had.
The story reminded me of that scene from CKY 3, I think, where they catch a bee, they put him in the freezer, and then they tie a string around him and fly him around like a kite.
I've done that.
I've done it too. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Because we took ours to the park and walked. We were like, oh, we're just walking Jordan. And people were like, what the fuck do you mean? And I go, look, at the end, it's a bee on a string. He's my pet.
That's so.
The best part of that story is when my wife was like, she was like,
ouch.
Because of course I was sitting there because I'm a terrible dad, right? So like I'm sitting there on the couch. I'm sitting there on the couch, like checking my phone, like probably posting something about Zayo, you know. And she goes, Dan, and I was like, what? And she's like, there's ants going everywhere, and I was like,
that sounds like a you problem.
Ants. So I immediately went for the vacuum cleaner. was the first thing that I went for, and I was like, wait, do you want to catch these ants or do you want me to kill them? Because I'm significantly better at one of those things than the other, you know. And she's like, no, I don't want to kill him. We paid for him, you know, like don't, you know, like no, you know. I was like, oh no, oh god. Yeah, man. So that happened. Yeah, what are we doing? We're
on the last one. Grayson's going with his last.
Grayson's going with his last pick. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, records.
Yep.
Okay.
Paradigm shift.
All right. I'm gonna give a little label love here to our boys in Fit for a King. They came out with an album called The Path this year.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's fit. I remember when Breaking the Mirror came out, and I was just like, okay. And it's funny because our buddy Daniel, right, who's in another solid state band, Phineas, he actually produced the music on our album, produced and recorded the, you know, engineered the tracking and all that stuff of the music on our record. And this is his first album, like being in the band. And so like right when Breaking the Mirror came out, it's like automatically I heard some of the, you know, some of that guitar work happening. But that song as a whole was awesome when it came out. It was like, dude, this is really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, that album came out, and man, there's some songs in there that are really, really great. Like I think my favorite song on the record is one called Louder Voice. It's like the second to last track on the record. It's just super dynamic. It's just got a lot of different flavors going on in there. I think the chorus is actually one of the catchiest things on the record, but I know that also chart wise that hit I think the biggest numbers that the band's had. So yeah, just big shout out to those guys, man. Doing a great job releasing this thing in the midst of all this crazy stuff. And yeah, just killing it, dude.
Yeah.
Their live stream was badass too.
Yeah.
The live stream that they did I think it was like right before the album release. That was awesome. Shout out to Dan for the mix on that too. I know that he mixed the whole thing. So yeah.
It's funny because I always forget how good Fit for a King is. I go for like maybe a month or so without listening to them, and then either they drop a new record. They're kind of like August Burns Red in that they just drop records all the time. And but like I always forget just like the harsh vocals for Fit for a King are so harsh in comparison to like a lot of bands in their kind of scene or whatever. And like they still have like the melodic vocals, they still have the hooks, they still have all that stuff or whatever. But I've never heard a band be so disgustingly heavy while still being like beautiful, you know, at the same time. Like they absolutely just blow it out of the water almost every single time. And this new record, what's interesting is that like a lot of people were posting like basically just like shit talk, you know, online. They've basically gone radio rock and they've basically done da 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 da. And I'm like, were we even listening to the same record?
Yeah.
You know, like number one, I find it very hard to believe or very hard to understand how this is in any way less heavy than other Fit for a King records.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Maybe they doubled down on the choruses a little more than they did in the past. but they also write choruses a lot better than they did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's just passage of time, perfecting your craft, like
Yeah.
Totally.
learning how to do the thing that you do better, you know? And like, yeah, this new record was absolutely killer. Like I remember listening to it, and again, because I was like, oh, Fit for a King, I've listened to them for a while. I like, they're like just like another melodic metalcore band. Like, you know, it's fine or whatever, you know. And then like I listened to it, and I was like, oh yeah, man, this is the good shit. Like they're doing it again, you know. Like, and yeah, they absolutely blew it out of the water here, and don't discredit yourselves either as far as releasing a record, you know, amidst a pandemic.
That's the honorable mention. They're
You
just
guys
being
had the
nice.
you guys had the well, no, but I mean, you guys had, I feel like you guys have it even harder because you're putting out your debut, you know, in the middle of all this stuff, and you're like, yeah, we got all these songs, and like now those songs are like old to us, and we kind of want to like you know, show you guys some newer stuff, and like you're just like, yeah, as soon as like I'm allowed to leave the house and people are, you know, going to actually show up if we like book something or whatever. So I would imagine that for you guys that it's even more so in the sense of like having kind of that itch of like, we want to go out and do the things that bands do.
Yeah.
And just play and have a good time and do our thing. So yeah, I think that is worth an honorable mention, and that you guys dropped your debut in the middle of all of this stuff, where you didn't necessarily have like you didn't have like 12 records of back catalog to draw from or you know or anything like that. So I definitely have a lot of respect for you guys for not pushing it back and not keeping it to like just kind of getting it out for people, because I do think that people need something. Everybody's sitting at home, people are bored, people are upset and stuff like that. So to have new releases and even have releases from a band that maybe they haven't heard before, I think it's ultimately a positive thing, even if it's probably extremely frustrating for you guys.
Yeah. No, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Like I mean, yeah, don't get us wrong. It's been weird. Of course, like, you know, we've kind of had this idea of, you know, what a debut release was going to look like. And this was not it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
we were
absolutely.
like, you know, we're like, we would hopefully be on like at least tour number 2 right now, if not
Yeah.
more, and being out there and everything. But yeah, you know, it was just one of those things where, funny enough, is like we were getting towards the release of the record, like Joe and I were talking and kind of talking about how like what the record's about and the themes that are talked about in the record. And weirdly enough, it actually made a lot of sense to release the record in these times because of like a lot of the stuff that's talked about on the album. But yeah, man, it's wild. Sometimes I think, I was like, dude, depending on how long this goes for, it's like by the time this is all over and we're able to go tour again, are we going to have a new album out? And it's like, well, Fury by Failure never got played live, so
No,
No,
never
I mean, you know
play
what
a
I mean?
single song from it live. Like make a new record, put it out,
Or
and
less
then
if they'd
never
have it
play
with
anything
bassist
from
right
the
now.
record live, and then be all like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, man. You had to be in on the ground floor for that. I'm sorry."
You have to be at that one show where we played one song off of that record.
We
Right
played
before we
we played
dropped it.
Empire. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's off our first record. You probably wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't understand.
Don't go to YouTube and look it up because it's totally not there. Yeah.
It's not.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not there.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, because this was we played that song before we announced that we had been signed too.
Yeah.
So at that point, like it's funny, a buddy of mine who became a friend. He went to the show, but I didn't know who he was then. But he was all like, "It's funny. I was at the show, and I was like, oh, there's a, you know, I know all these bands except for Lightworker. I'm gonna grab a beer during their set." And then he said that, like, you know, and then a few weeks later that, you know, we got announced, and then he was just like, I could have seen that you guys, and I just wanted to. I was like, what? He's all, dude. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I hope it was a great beer, buddy. Yeah. It better have been life changing.
It was a great show, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, like I've totally done that before. Like, you know, I've been at shows where it's like I didn't know, I know who a band was, but I never listened to their music, so I totally like skipped out on their set. And then like 2 years later, I start listening to them, and I'm like, crap, I'm such an idiot. I should have totally like stayed and listened to their set. So
you know who that happened with when it came to me was this band called Mute Math.
Oh yeah.
And because I went
cool now, okay.
Yeah, I one of the best live bands I've ever seen. Just so much energy, especially for a band that's not heavy. And it was interesting because I went over there. There you go. Yep. I went over there. I went to well, actually, it shut down prematurely because of the epidemic. It didn't shut down because of the epidemic, but it shut down early because of the epidemic. Because there's this venue that we have over here called Slim's, and I had an acquaintance that played in the band that was opening for them called Zeta, and they were on Tooth and Nail, and that's who I went out to see. And they were like, "Oh, are you guys also here for Mute Math?" And then me and my buddy were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna head out after your guys' set." And then we left. And then I remember like a few months later listening to their self-titled record, and I was like, "This is incredible!" And I completely missed out. And then when I saw them live, I was like, I'm such an idiot. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's keep the train rolling. Let's see. What do we all have? One last pick? Is that how the math works out?
Well, Grayson just did his.
Grayson did his.
Yep.
Okay, so it's yours, John.
So my last record, my top 5 before we get to honorable mentions after this, is Body Count, Carnivore. That record, just like Bloodlust, just like honestly, really everything the band's ever put out, super relevant to what's going on currently culturally. I mean, even to the fact that since the band's been back in the last four years or so, Ice-T basically saying in one of the songs off this record, he's like, police brutality and all this kind of shit's nothing new. I've been talking about this shit. I've been really talking about this shit for fucking 30 plus years, going back to Cop Killer and stuff like that. But like, it's one of those where Body Count, especially teaming with Will Putney, some bands just, when they lock in with a producer, magic happens, and Will Putney and Body Count just create bangers. It sounds great. The delivery that Ice has obviously is completely different than anything anyone else will ever do. All of their guests are always great. R.I.P. Riley from Power Trip, on this fucking album as well. Even pulling in like veterans of the hardcore metal scene over the last couple of records. It's just an incredible record. Dan and I talked about it after getting to interview Ernie. And I was like, any band who would put in like pseudo skits in the middle of the fucking record of like, like if you go back to Bloodlust, Ski Mask Way, where like Ice is recreating like a robbery. He's like, you keep talking shit, I'm gonna grab your bitch. You know what? Matter of fact, grab his bitch. No, I'm not gonna shoot you. I'm gonna shoot your bitch. And it's like, you're like, is this a bridge? Like, what is this? But it's one of those like where it works, and like even on Carnivore, like the title track has like a pseudo dinosaur growling in it, like where he's like Carnivore, roar, and you're like, in any other band that'd be so fucking hokey, but it just adds to like almost like I don't want to say necessarily the integrity, but like it just kind of adds what Body Count is. It like no other band can do that and get away with it. Like I just feel like any other band who would do like a weird like kind of skit or something, or like acting out something in the middle of a song, or throwing in weird samples, and like again going back to Bloodlust, there was a fight and there's just fake like Batman punching noises and shit, and you're like, this why would you put this in here? Like, this is kind of like B-movie level esque, but for some reason, like I said, body count can do it, and you're just like, yeah, that's fucking badass.
It's almost like a blaxploitation film within the record, almost. It sounds like.
Yeah, kind of a little bit. Obviously, with Ice being an actor and being into a lot of different stuff and bringing up social issues, but I just, this really sucks because this might have been one of the few years I might have actually got to see body count since they tour, because they have like a very finite window of touring before Ice has usually got to do SVU. So it's like they were supposed to hit up a lot of the festivals this year. So I was really looking forward to finally getting to see body count. And obviously that did not happen. But this is a record, as I was kind of going back through, like, what came out? And I was like, I remember like the first song came out toward the end of actually, I think the actual first song for Carnivore, the title track, came out like at the very end of last year. So I was like, oh, fuck, I think that came out last year. I was like, wait, no, it dropped like really early because we talked to Ernie like in like February, like right as all of this had just happened. Because I think he was one of my first interviews since I went to that Killswitch tour with August Burns Red and did those 2 interviews. And then literally the next day, everything just fucking shut down. So
yeah,
I think Ernie was one of the first I had done since the pandemic really was what it is now. So, but yeah, great record, great band. And I think it appeals to people who are like sort of like Dan's was Testament, something for the older fans. If you have been around for a while with the band and definitely got that new sound that, I think a lot of kids getting into heavier music might be really into as well.
Do you think that they'll ever have Chris Brown from Trapped on as a guest on their future records?
You know who I feel like might actually be like, and I know you're making a joke. You know who I feel like might actually be on some shit in this year that has me kind of excited is that shit. What the fuck is his name? That Nick like McRiblet or whatever dude that does like all the. So he went and hung out with Ice for real. Like there's photos on both of their social media. And if you follow Ice on Twitter, like he's been blowing that dude up. Like, dude, you like real ones recognize real, all this kind of shit. Like they were hanging out. Don't know if they recorded anything. I just saw that same dude, that Nick dude was in the studio with Snoop Dogg the other day. So like you want, and like, obviously he did that shit with Erykah Badu. So like, as far as I'm concerned, 2020 fucking sucks. That dude, for him, it's a win. Like that dude has won.
Is that the so you're talking about like the guy who's like he's also like a hardcore legend though, right?
I don't know. I don't know much of his back. I messaged him a long time ago when his stuff first started popping up on all my social media, and I was like, this dude's kind of interesting. It's like very, because at the same time I was seeing this dude pop up in all my socials, and I just saw a video of this fucking dude earlier today, and haven't seen anything since. Is the weird spastic drummer. Where he'd put the snare on the table and then just grab the microphone and just start basically throwing it around and having a seizure basically with this thing. And people are like, oh, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And you're like, I'll tell you what, I'll be like Pip from fucking Airheads and fart on a snare drum. Like, like it's not that great. Or go see The Chariot. At least there's some musicality to that.
Is there? Is there really? We won't get into the discussion John and I had about that off mic the other night, but it was brutal. I definitely would have no listeners after that. But
sorry, his name is Mark Rebelt, Rebillett, Rebbillet.
I like how in your brain that just translates riblet.
That's literally what I wrote though. Is I wrote Nick McRib. Hold on, I'll share my screen so you can legitimately see how I spell this.
Ribbit.
Are you sure you weren't just hungry?
I literally, if you look at my search at the top, it says Nick McRiblet, Erykah Badu.
McRiblet. Oh wow, wowza!
We're like,
that's
but
incredible.
This dude, like, he just creates like a loop. Oh, we're not doing political ads. Okay, that's done. I don't endorse that person. I don't even know who it is. It's probably local to me.
It sounds like if McDonald's were to start serving like
Travis Scott meals with actual like mixtapes in their fries. It would be a McRiblet. with every double size fry you get a okay, so hold on. Can we talk about the emails you and I get from SoundCloud people every other day going, hey, so like I have beats and you can have them, and then like 2 days after that they'll be like, just checking up if you want to like get some beats for free, and I'm like, I know I'm on SoundCloud. We're a fucking pod. I literally emailed one dude one day because he emailed me 3 times in a matter of like 2.5 days. And now he goes, so you want to like, I just want to see if you like want to buy some beats. I was like, we're a podcast. What the fuck are we going to do with beats? And then he was just like, I was like, we're not Sway in the morning. I don't have the people come on and drop like a hot 32 like over your beat like that have never heard it. Like that's not what we do. And so finally, like the guy was like, oh, I don't know, like maybe you need intro music. I was like, I'm going to do you the same service you obviously have done with my show. I assume you're going to be great over a metal hardcore podcast, right? Like people will love it. And he was like, oh, well, I was like, just because I'm on SoundCloud does not mean, I mean, I love rap and hip hop, but like, doesn't mean I'm like trying to get people to hear me fucking bust like, you know, a hot verse on somebody's shit.
Well, yeah, that's my favorite email that we have gotten recently. Well, because like, so we get emails from like publicists, like letting us know like new releases and like stuff like that. And like, that's all cool. That's how we get a lot of interviews, you know. Yeah. But like the thing that there was this one where you can always tell when it's a band that has like a social page and like 10 followers. And like they might be a great band, but like we never get to that point, you know, like because it's they've got 10 followers and a publicist. And the publicist is like their buddy Steve from down the street, right? And he'll send us a message being all like, "Yo, checked out your show, and you know, I think that you would be a good fit to speak with my artist, who is da 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 da." And it's like when you're dealing with a publicist, like a real band, they'll just like straight up be like, "Hey, Hatebreed's doing press next week, you want in," or something like that. You know what I mean? Like kind of like you know when you're talking to somebody like legit. When you're talking to somebody that's not legit, they like will send you this big wordy email about like
trying to overhype.
You know, oh yeah. Like my client, who is an international
sounds like Paul Heyman from WWE.
And by international, they mean like they have 100 hits on YouTube, and we paid for 80 of them. You know, like it's you know one of those. And that's not to discourage like up and coming bands or anything, but like I would rather the band reached out to us themselves, you know, like versus like some dude that they know is sending an email. But we got one recently where the subject of the email was "Shut up, Karen," and like. Because they wanted us to click on the email, I guess. Like it's like clickbaiting in email in inboxes, and it was just some band, obviously that like no one had ever heard of, and it was some dude promoting them or whatever. But like their record wasn't even like called that, or they had like basically the email body had nothing to do with the subject of the email at all. And I was just like, so I'm sitting there at work, like, what are they actually? What do you think their success rate is of people actually responding to that email? And some podcasts, like what do they expect? Like, because you know they sent that email to like Mark Maron or something, you know, like you know they're expecting like it's going to be like a 2.5 hour interview, and they're going to they're going to end up becoming international legends because I sent an email that had the subject line of "Shut up, Karen." Like that's somebody thought that, and they thought that enough to actually like put it into the world and like make it a real thing, and it just absolutely just blows my mind. And John's like crying over there. I was
going to say John is losing it.
That is not the most. Is not the most outrageous email we've ever gotten.
No, I wasn't laughing at that. I was looking for something again, just for one of my honorable mentions to make sure it came out when it came out. And I went to
all right, Mr. Serious.
I went to the band's Twitter. Whatever. I'll fucking do this because it's only like 20 seconds. But so I'm on Twitter looking for the thing, and what I end up finding is this video of
why is this? Why is it playing down at the bottom?
Yeah, hold on. So the kid is eating unsweetened Hershey's cocoa.
How disappointing!
But wait, but the reaction, you'll all know why I was laughing real hard.
What?
Wait.
That's how I felt when I heard those In Flames re-record.
But it was just the spitting of the powder that I was not expecting at any time, especially since that's not at all what I was looking for. Thank you, algorithms.
Where are we at?
Honorable mentions, I guess.
Are we at the final record?
I haven't done my number one yet. Yeah. John's was Body Count, and then Joe goes after John.
Oh, I already said my number 5.
Yeah, he already did his.
Wait, you did, Joe? I don't think you did all 5.
I don't think you did all 5 either.
What were they?
Because Caspian was number 1, right? But
yeah,
Caspian was number 1, and then I did Misery Signals, Dens, The
Ocean.
Oh yeah, The Ocean.
That's 5.
Yeah, Cinco.
Wait, what?
That's 4.
Wait, yeah, Caspian, Misery Signals, The Ocean, Dens. What was the 5th one?
Yeah.
Oh snap!
Yeah, I was gonna say because I went first, and I
think what fucked me up is that, and I should have caught.
I told you guys I'm not a smart guy, but I can count.
Do you know what love is, though?
I am not a smart man, and I do not know what love is.
All right.
Like, I don't know.
Putting your dick in a dirty, diseased woman.
I don't know, man. I love my. I don't know. Here's the thing. I like my Zao Blood and Fire shirt, but I love my Zao Splinter Shard shirt. So that's all I know about love.
Well, if you want me to go, I was going to have an honorable mention, but should I go ahead and say it?
Good, do it.
Yeah, it's the 1975 Notes on a Conditional Form. It's funny because I absolutely love the record. Just one song that I actually don't like at all, so I just deleted it from my library. But everything else, I absolutely love.
Yeah, the Cheeto song.
The Cheeto song, yeah,
that's the
one. It's the one I don't like. But that band is, I mean, pop music is, especially the way they do it, is not easy to write. It takes a lot of talent, and it takes a lot of I don't know, and especially the length of their records are just ridiculous. And
22 tracks, yep.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's, I mean, I thought for me, it was probably a record that I like. It's probably my second favorite record by them.
Wow.
So, yeah, I like it more than their second record, which has now been bumped down to my third favorite. So,
Wow.
But yeah, I really enjoy that record. It's definitely like a good times kind of vibe, and yeah, it's good times.
Nice.
All right. Well, I guess if I had to go with the number 1, it would have to be the the 25th anniversary re-release of Clayman by I'm kidding.
Oh.
That record is Clayman. The album is fantastic. The re-recorded versions of those songs from 25 years ago are hot garbage. Like, don't bands, all the 4 people that are watching this right now, because let's be honest, they all checked out during the Fire Ant story. But like, it's here's the thing. Bands, don't go back and re-record your material, because number 1, even if you do a decent job, the best you're going to do is decent. Especially if it's off of a classic record. Even some of my favorite bands of all time
say that to
have
Amberlin.
re-recorded albums or re-recorded tracks. Don't do it. It's a bad idea.
Amberlin did that with Feel Good Dragon. That's arguably what took them off, though.
There's always going to be an exception. There's always going to be an exception. But I think for the vast majority, if Metallica goes back and re-records 5 songs from Master of Puppets, we're going to hate it. We're going to hate it. It's just the way it is. Which is why my number 1 pick, and again, I'm being that guy, will be the 2020 album Moment. by Dark Tranquility. It's not out yet, but
There you go, Grayson. I called it.
oh, you called it that was going to be my number one.
I said I'm not going to sit there and talk about records that like, because what's hard is like in prepping for this, there's stuff that like either I've kind of forgotten about, or more to the point, some of the stuff that we've been listening to lately. Like I think the Ghost Kid record's really good, but I'm not going to talk about a record that no one's heard. And I was like, it'd be like me, like since we just got done doing the Dark Tranquility chat a couple of days ago, that it'd be like me being like, oh, the new Dark Tranquility, my album of the year, and people are like, what the fuck? Like, there's a song out.
I don't care.
Okay. I just think that's kind of like cheating at this point.
I'm just being real. Like I don't care. It is that good. It is because whenever we first started talking about it, when John was prepping up for the interview that I didn't get to do because it was like during my work day, and
I'm gonna apologize for next Thursday's interview too, because I know you'll want to be a part of that.
Hate breed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But hey, I think we
actually, I think next Thursday,
I think we might be getting the beer too. I don't know. I probably won't be able to get it in time, but
I'm starting to feel like I might be coming down with something. I might be sick that day. But we'll see.
I'm gonna be hungover as fuck. So
my boss watches all this stuff, so this is actually really hilarious. But like, yeah, but like seriously, that record is really, really, really good. It is an absolute return to form for Dark Tranquility. They lost a major songwriter between this record and the last. And honestly, they definitely made up for it. Yeah, like 100%.
No joke.
This sounds like
this sounds like fiction to me a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds more like fiction, even a little bit of character. Dark Tranquility. It is absolutely killer. Michael's clean vocals are on point. And really like it is a fantastic record. And as much as I shit on Gothenburg death metal, like melodic death metal and stuff, because it's just been done to death. Dark Tranquility is one of the originator bands of that style, and like it shows because they have a mastery over that style that I feel like other bands, even other bands with their caliber In Flames, just absolutely cannot reach that level. And Dark Tranquility is doing it almost effortlessly. And
so, what do you think about the newer Soilwork stuff?
The newer Soilwork stuff is good because, yeah, absolutely, it's not going to be like the old Soilwork, like the really old Soilwork stuff. It's not going to be quite as heavy, but at the same time, it's not really like at this point, though. What's that?
I said the band that made those records, other than
Bjorn,
gone. It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, so it's the Bjorn show. But I'm totally fine with it because it's not like that band going in a more melodic direction was going to be like a surprise for me,
especially not after having the drama.
Yeah, and I feel like they've always had kind of breadcrumbs that he was kind of wanting to go in a more melodic, a little bit more like I don't want to say like rock, because it's not rock, it's still very metal. And I think melodic metal, the concept of melodic metal is lost on a lot of people, especially nowadays, where you think, oh, metal, so it's going to be like super, super heavy, like in the Acacia Strain sort of thing. But like metal also has a very, very, very strong backbone of very melodic and easy to get into music. So I feel like in that regard, Soilwork is actually really kind of just doing what they've always been doing. Even if they have like really not that many, really only one original member. But I think the newer Soilwork stuff is fantastic and absolutely was pretty predictable if you look at the rest of their catalog. So like I'm not upset about it. I don't feel betrayed by it. They definitely didn't go in with the new lineup and re-record a bunch of songs like classic Soilwork songs and try to pass those off as better somehow. I'm really butthurt about this influence thing.
Very, very bitter. Apparently,
it's like they did this to me. Like they literally just sent me an email that just said, "Fuck you, Dan. Listen to these."
I think Soilwork also has something new coming out. I think later this week, or no, next week. They've got something new coming out. So, I mean, I don't know if it's an album. It looks like it's a music video, so maybe it's a new song. But we'll see.
I haven't heard it yet, so but next time we do like a top 5, I'll like wait until it's like 5 or 6 weeks out and be all like, I've heard it and it's incredible, But like, I think, I think if you haven't listened to John's interviews with Bjorn, they're really good.
It's usually because they're drinking.
Yeah, they just sit down and start drinking and start talking, and it's always very
Weird,
on brand.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But yeah, dude, Dark Tranquility, that's my top record for the year.
Let's do
again, like Testament, it is absolutely a return to form, I feel like, for the band.
Let's to kind of wrap this up, let's do 3 honorable mentions each, and instead of going around and doing one, just do like your 3 quick little whatever, and then we'll wrap this up. So start with Grayson.
Shoot, well, don't start with me. I had 5 that I even remembered came out this year.
We'll go with Joey because he's got a list.
I'm gonna do some. I'm gonna cheat and do some research while you guys.
All right. Honorable mentions for me. Let's see. Umbra Vitae, Shadow of Life, which is Jacob Bannon from Converge's death metal side project.
Oh yeah.
John Martin in that too.
Yep. The guys from the Red Chord and whatnot. It's a very quick burst of just quality death metal. I mean, it's what it is, what they set out to do, and it's awesome. Let's see here, another record. Our label mates from the Tooth and Nail side, not Solid State. Idle Threat. Nothing is broken for good. They released a really quality. I don't know what they would consider themselves style-wise, but to me, it reminds me a lot of like the old school kind of like Midwest kind of emo stuff, like some Casket Lottery in there, some but then there's some screaming that reminds me of like the early 2000s stuff that I grew up listening to. But I absolutely love it. I think their new EP is fantastic. And you know what? I'm gonna another one too. It's been a really good year for I guess kind of more melancholy music. Tiger Wine also. Nothing Is For You. They released a really good. I don't even. It's kind of shoegazy, kind of not. But it's just very cerebral stuff, and you could just tell that they're very passionate about the music that they make, and it's just perfect fall weather stuff. So those are my honorable mentions, and yes.
Dan?
For me, honorable mentions, this is hard, but I'm gonna go oh no, okay. One of my honorable mentions was 2019 because I suck. I was gonna say it was the new November's Doom album, Nephilim Grove, but that came out in 2019, and I'm just realizing that now. I definitely did not get my copy until 2020, but we'll leave that. We'll leave that where it is. Definitely
like Grayson in the Capstan record.
Yep. Definitely the new Ghost Inside. Absolutely awesome. I know there was some controversy about it, but like I really don't care about all that stuff. I love the record. And it was a really, like, I've used this term a lot tonight, but return to form, even though the band never really faltered as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, absolutely 100%. The Ghost Inside, just killer. One of my favorite bands. And I can't I'm super stoked that they're back, especially with all the I almost said roadblocks, but I feel like that's in bad taste. But just all of the issues that they've had over the past few years, and just seeing them kind of recover from that and come back out strong has been really inspiring. 100%. And next one is Misery Signals, obviously. Ultraviolet, we've all talked about it. We all love it. It is a absolutely killer record. And I think I was talking to Joe about this a while back, but it's and actually he brought it up, and I didn't say anything, but it is a little lighter than I maybe had wanted it to be, but I'm kind of past that at this point. I've listened to the record so many times that I don't even care that it's a little bit more melodic and a little bit less heavy, but like, I don't know. There's still a lot of bands out there that are attempting to do this style that are a lot worse than Misery Signals, so I'm 100% on board. And then my last one, since I've been cheating the whole night, I'm going to cheat on this one too. And I'm going to throw out, this is a record that's already come out.
Okay.
But it is the Zao Preface album. And it's not really even an album, and that's why it's cheating, because it's a bunch of demos from the band's early days. And it's kind of the era of Zao that I know the least about. And so it was kind of cool hearing their like original vocalist singing on some of the old songs, or obviously singing for the first time songs that he had written. So it was cool hearing quote unquote new songs from that era of the band, because like I've got some of the demo tapes and some of the splits and stuff that they did that those songs were featured on, and they sound so unbearably horrible. That like it's a cool thing to like take pictures of and put it in your Zao fan group. But like it is absolutely like they were unlistenable. And what they've done with this release, if they've taken these songs, they've cleaned them up, and they've turned everything way up, because some of the cassettes I have, like you can almost barely hear anything going on. But they've restored these songs to a really, really, really nice level. And for a collection of demo tracks at 14 tracks long, and they all sound really good. It's absolutely awesome. And I love I love having those songs and having kind of a more complete picture of where the band started.
Are you going to try to raffle off your copy?
No, because that's bullshit.
All right.
So, just throwing it out there. That's literally just I can't even.
That's kind of an inside joke between me and Daniel, but
I cannot comment.
Only if you label them.
I cannot comment. I cannot comment.
John, how about you?
Stupid.
So, so I'm gonna cheat because two of mine are EPs, so that'll together we'll make a full. I'm gonna go first with again, just to be different for me. Halsey's latest record, Manic, has been really good. I have a thing for female vocalists, if you really can't tell from a lot of this. I mean, not from my top list, but just in general. I think she's got a great voice. I love kind of just her vibe, and working with all kinds of different producers, just creating different sounds. Been kind of a fan since my wife started listening to Badlands, like before she blew up. Really jealous, actually. My wife went to go see her on that tour before she was like a big pop person now, like she is, because it'd have been kind of cool to go see her, in a kind of smaller theater on the way up. Because I, like we were talking earlier, like we were like, oh, I missed this band. Fuck, I was an idiot. Years later, being so into them, but that's sort of the fun thing of checking out bands of all kinds, is sometimes you're introduced to new people that be really good. But I like Halsey. I like what she stands for, and I think she's really good. The other EP, the first EP, yeah, okay, great, thanks for that. The other EP that I'm going to start with is Villa Vallo. I'm a huge Him fan, so the fact that when Him broke up, that was pretty disappointing. The band, most of the band at this point, has started a band called Flat Earth, which not a great name. Music's okay. They're kind of going more of like the 70s kind of stoner rock vocally, so not necessarily super into it. But Vallo finally put out a solo EP called Gothica Fenica Volume 1, and has that Him sound that if you're into it, like it's there. So pretty stoked on it. Hoping to have him come on soon. It looked like as of when the CP dropped, we were supposed to be able to get a show, which would have been, for me, I probably would have shit my pants and peed all over them and all that just to get to talk to him. But maybe next year is what we keep saying.
What a story! What a story they would have gotten from that.
I know. Hi, I'm literally shitting and pissing my pants. I think I missed my exit too. I don't know. I'm in my car. The other EP to make the one full length, 18 Visions Inferno, they just dropped it probably like 3 weeks ago. I'm actually talking to James 2 times next week. Yeah, I wasn't able to get the pre-order, so I'm really bummed. Because I almost was going to say Vanity, because technically they re-released Vanity. They re-recorded some of it. It sounds great because it sounds like newer sounding 18 Visions as far as production goes. But that's not a new record. But no, Inferno is really great. I'm excited to talk to James a little bit about 18 Visions and then probably bullshit about other stuff because honestly, I love the approach they're taking right now where they're like, we don't give a fuck. We're doing everything ourselves. We think it's cool. We don't like straight up James, and he'll probably say this, so I don't feel out of like I'm talking out of turn, but they're picking what press they do, and he straight up was just like, we're not trying to get new fans. Our fans are our fans, and if you like us, you'd like us, and if you fucking don't, then you fucking don't. We don't care. We're not trying to be the biggest band. Like, we know what we are, and we're just going to be that. And I think that's so commendable because you see a lot of these bands coming back, and you wonder if it's we get so much credibility for starting this sound, and then all these bands got way bigger on something that we started when we had to eat shit and didn't get anything. So now it's our time to get fucking paid. And you can definitely tell that that's not how any of the 18 Visions dudes are. They're just like, fuck it. Like Josh James is in like 10 million fucking bands. And, fucking one dude's like manager of who is Keith managing? I forget, but like Bass Nectar or something like that. Like some big fucking arena like level band doesn't have time to like do 18 Visions full time. But it's like all those dudes are in it just to fucking do it and make great music. And ever since they've come back with 18, still got it.
Dude. Yeah.
And then we went out to, and then I just saw this in my time hop recently. Like we went out to, or preparing to go out to LA to go see him at the Roxy once 18 came out, and it was just like, even when they play like old songs like Tower of Snakes and stuff like that, like they kind of pretty much forego any of like the quote unquote like butt rock era of the band toward the end, and they just play a lean, mean fucking set that reminds you of why everyone loved them in the beginning, from until their ink runs out and Vanity and all that, to even what they're doing now. And the new songs sound great against the old songs. Like it just sounds like a band that's been around for 20 years and never took it to any time off. And yeah, this EP, if you've not checked it out, is just insanely good.
I saw them live actually during. I'm not sure if we would call it the tour cycle for 18, because, like you said, they kind of do things on their own terms. But they had a handful of dates. And
I wonder if you and I went to the same show.
I saw them at here in the Bay Area.
Oh, okay, then no.
Yeah, but what was the name of the venue we played the last show we played, Grayson?
The Ritz.
I saw them at the Ritz, but they played the main room, and it was crazy because it reminded me of being in high school again, where except everybody's about 20 pounds heavier, and but I mean, dude, like the air was electricity that night. There was blood on the floor by the second band. I mean, it was insane, and they put on such a great show. Like you said, I mean, you can't tell that they haven't missed a beat. And Keith actually recorded Inferno by himself. And he did you read his Instagram post where he said that like he actually brought his recording rig to work, and during lunchtime, that's when he would actually track some stuff or like edit stuff.
Work on it, yeah.
It's insane. And I mean, like that goes to show that they're doing it because they actually love to do it, and they're not on a label anymore. This is, I mean, they made vinyl for the fans, like, and like I think that's incredible that they would actually do that. And it also goes to show that they love making music. So yeah, that's a great honorable mention. Fully back.
And then this is my last one, just because of how quickly it came out. And I haven't had time to really get into it. But the new Deftones.
Yeah, I've only listened like maybe once or twice through.
I'll definitely say, and I know a lot of people give me shit for this, but I mean, I'm literally on record talking about every single Deftones song other than this record in existence. So I'm not going to beat any of that to death. I will say I was interested to see what was going to happen with this record with them getting back with Terry Date. I thought there was something great going with Nick Raskulinis. I think, Diamond Eyes sounds great. I think Koi no Yokan sounds great. What he was able to pull out of the band, I think was really good. Sonically sounds great. Gore was a pretty big letdown for me. It feels like a lot of ideas that were not really fleshed out. And I think I even
said it, man.
No, well, what the funny thing is I feel like, I caught a lot of shit for my take on Gore as the songs and as the full record, where I said it feels like it was we got enough, we'll put out a record, because it was either fulfilling the contract or whatever. But I was like, I didn't ever get the feeling like I did with Diamond Eyes or Koi no Yokan, where it felt like this is a record that the band worked on and really honed in the songs.
Yeah, it's a jam record.
But it's been interesting to hear, in light of all the press cycle for this record, Chino basically saying that's what happened. It was like, we just kind of got to the point where we all kind of worked individually. Stefan wasn't really involved. So like that aspect of it isn't there. And we just kind of felt like there needed to be a time frame, because the label was like, we need a record by this date. And I genuinely think that's what led to the record just feeling so weird and not cohesive. I think some of the parts work, and if they got to explore and work on them at their own pace, which admittedly is a snail's pace most of the time, but this record, so far from the few spins I've really gotten to sit down with it with good headphones and not being distracted, I still think my rule of 3 applies, because White Pony is considered, to some, it's their best record. It's a classic. Diamond Eyes was the next third record, and it brought them back, and it's a classic. And for a lot of people, either that's their number 1 or it's their number 2. I think this incorporates so much of those 2 records between some of the newer lower ends that, Stefan's doing with his now 9-string guitar, and, Chino really coming into his own as a guitar player as well, and figuring out how they work in a sonic dynamic together as guitar players. And this record on this, the few spins I've given it, feels very different lyrically. It feels very more head on and not so abstract. And I feel like that's kind of what made me fall in love with Diamond Eyes a lot more, is it felt more raw and real versus being abstract I feel like at times White Pony was very up its own ass pretentious, but it worked to its strength. That's one of its strengths.
Yeah.
But I feel like with Diamond Eyes and now this record, I feel like Chino has figured out lyrically that you don't always have to be abstract and different. I think that's something that's also one of my other favorite bands has made Every Time I Die be a completely new band, is ever since Low Teens. Or I'm sorry, not Low Teens. Ever since why am I blanking on the record name? The one with the cop on the cover. Hold on, I'll see it in just a second. X Lives. So ever since X Lives, I feel like Keith's lyrics, and especially once you get to the next record, he abandoned more of the metaphors. That sounded very European the way I said that. More of the metaphors he started dropping and started being more direct and honest. And I feel like it made me connect with the band way more, instead of having, sort of like you were talking about earlier, Grayson, I think with the whole Taste of Chaos scene. It's instead of talking in metaphors and shit like that, it's as you get older, sometimes it's more impactful to not have the cool line that'll be on your t-shirt or that everyone will chant out when you put the microphone out, and instead say something that actually means something that's going to connect with a lot more people. And I feel like that's something Deftones has been doing a lot of over the last couple of records. And I feel like it's something a band like Every Time I Die is turning that corner and making them appeal to a older generation that has been allowed to grow with them.
Mm-hmm.
No, totally. I think that new Deftones record, I think it's funny because the only song I have been vibing with was actually the very first single.
See, I did. So when I was actually at Scott Bowling's to do my interview, when we were done, he was just playing music and they were like, "Oh, the new Deftones." I was like, "Turn it off." And they're like, "Why, you don't like it?" I was like, "I haven't listened to the whole record because it burned me with Gore." Because I sat there and I was like, "Is this it?" I waited for this.
Yeah.
And so I was hoping that wasn't going to happen with this record, but for the most part, the general consensus I kept seeing from the singles released was a lot more consistently positive than I saw with Gore. It reminded me more of like Kono Yokan and Diamond Eyes. But those are the records pretty much since Diamond Eyes going forward. I've waited until like I have the whole record because I feel like since White Pony, it's conditioned me to realize they're more of an album band now versus here are the singles.
Yo, definitely. I feel like that kind of started happening after, I would say, after Saturday Night Wrist. You know, like that's kind of, I mean, because Hole in the Earth is a great single, but I don't think it actually represents the bulk of the album. And then after that, you know, like Diamond Eyes is actually my favorite album by Deftones. It's, you know, it's insane how they were able to pull together after She's Death, and just make something like it's art, man. You know, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, powerful record, and you know, and I think we're, you know, like you said, Gore kind of. I like a couple of songs on there, but this one feels like okay. They called up Steph and were like, I think I read an interview where Chino said that he actually went over to Steph's place for like a couple of weeks, and they just hung out and just connected again. That way they could write riffs. And, you know, like, hey, dude, what do you want to hear on this record? And this record is heavier than Gore. And it actually, to me, sounds more Deftones than Gore was. Gore, like you said, is just
Gore sounds like a Crosses record to me, or Team Sleep.
Yeah, Team Sleep I could see for sure. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah.
Well, speaking of sleep, I already did mine. Did Grayson ever do his?
No, he was researching. That's the reason I was
yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So my, let's see, 3 honorable mentions. So I'll definitely do Misery Signals, Ultraviolet. That's something that Joe turned me on to, and I have the album. I actually just got it a week ago, on vinyl, but it's something that I've heard a couple of times and I really liked. I think I just need to dive into a little bit more, but it's really good from what I heard. It's a band that Joe always told me, it's like he knows what kind of music I like, and he's like, dude, have you not gotten into this band yet? I'm like, all right. I just need to take the time to sit down and like listen to stuff. I don't like, you know, I think John was mentioning before, it's like just being able to sit down and listen to music for the sake of listening to music. It's like I have to actively find the time to do that.
Hold on to preface, because we were talking about that before we were recording. So long and short of it, I was saying that it's hard for me sometimes to compile these lists because I don't really we get advanced promo copies of stuff, and then, you know, if I'm gonna talk to someone like, you know, with the Dark Tranquility thing, like not only am I listening to the new stuff, but I'm going back and listening to the old stuff. So it's almost like Dan with discography discussion, where you're not listening to it for an enjoyment sake. You're listening to it because you're looking for talking points, and more so for what we do on this show. I'm listening to music looking for something where I go, oh, here's an interesting talking point that we can discuss and that someone who may be a fan of the band will find interesting. Yeah. And then I also have to find abstract things that haven't been beaten to death, presumably in the middle of a press cycle. So I think Dan's kind of the same way because of how he has to listen to music for his show. You don't get to listen to it. And the common sentiment he always says is, when you're listening to this, when these records drop, yeah, it may be fine. But when you're listening to 15 years worth of albums back to back to back to back, you know, over the course of a day, like when I listened to the Acacia Strain, I listened to their whole discography in one day. And yeah, it blends and bleeds together really badly at times. But that's the difference between having the ability to listen to everything all at once versus having the slow progression of something and seeing it gradually happening. Whereas when you get it all at once, you're like, yeah, I mean, you got it. Didn't, I don't know. It all sounds the same. And then you changed on like the 8th record. Like, what the fuck? But we just don't get to listen to music, I don't think, doing what we do. And I feel like the same is going to happen now that when you start touring and so forth, you're probably going to start getting away from being into heavier music if you aren't already not into it, because you're going to be surrounded by that when touring becomes a thing again, to where you're going to be like, I want to get the fuck far away from what we do. So it's going to make you, the only bands that you're probably going to really like other than them as people are going to be the things that really shine through. And I think that's the thing when trying to compile my list is I was like, what really spoke to me? Like, is like Misery Signals is the one record that spoke to all of us. And I guarantee if we talked about it more in depth, we'd find that there are completely different reasons. Like, I feel like I connected with it a lot more because of getting to know and talk to all the dudes for the last 3.5, especially Jesse, for the last 3.5 years, not doing this. So I know a lot more of the things that were going on. So when I hear the record, I'm like, oh, I remember when Jesse was telling me these things. When Dan was talking about the Ghost Inside it. I know I've said this on the podcast, and I think I even said it when Andrew was on the show. I got to listen to that final mix with Andrew in his office, like with the album cranked as shit. And him telling me stories as I'm like, oh, this part's cool. Oh, yeah. Like when we were in the studio, we'll, whatever. So to me, I've only very recently been able to listen to that record because of him telling me the stories and some of the emotion that clearly is on that record. I wasn't ready to go and listen to that record because of so much of the things that I've learned from doing this side of things. And so as such, it's doing the podcast has kind of ruined listening to music for me because I feel like I'm looking for something so I can talk about it, or more to the point, I'm looking and listening to it because it's a job. And the
100% agree. Yeah.
And it's like when I booking shows will ruin shows for you. I can't go into a venue and go to a show without thinking, what is the guarantee? How much of the merch cut is the venue getting? How many people are in? How many work?
Same thing with me.
Like I can't go to shows like that with and have I just that now that I've kind of peeked behind the curtain and been a part of that, like shows are ruined. And writing about shows has kind of also in a completely different facet ruined shows because I'm looking and taking everything in because I have to write it down to make you feel like you were there. And if you weren't, or if you were there, then make you feel like you're recounting exactly what you saw.
Yeah.
So all three of those things have ruined music for me. So, and it's all my own fault because I wanted to go to shows for free.
Yeah, I feel you. Not being able to listen to music recreationally.
Here's a question I've never asked Dan. What is a band or an album that you fucking love, but because of discography discussion has ruined it for you? Don't say Clayman.
In Flames ruined Clayman for me. They shot themselves in the foot with that one. But I would say probably a lot of the Cannibal Corpse stuff, to be honest. Because I love shit like Cannibal Corpse. And even like Napalm Death, they were another one where it was like I love those records, I love those bands, and I listened to those records as they came out sequentially. But whenever I had to listen to 14 Cannibal Corpse albums in a week, if you could just imagine how much all that sounded the same, like. And I'm trying to find something to say about it. Like John said, the talking points. It's one of the very few discography discussion episodes I had to take notes on because, I'm trying when I'm doing that show, I'm trying to describe something that is kind of somewhat intangible, in that like you're looking at like 20, 25 years of a band and you're like, this is all really great, but it all sounds the same, and I really can't differentiate between records. I like the overall, I like the overall sound, but I like it for like I don't know how long's an album, 45 minutes at a time, or like whatever it is, versus listening to it for 7 hours, like straight, and like because I kept falling asleep. That happens to me all the time. I'll be like, I can cram 3 records tonight, and like I'll fall asleep in the middle of the second one, and yeah, like it's very, very frustrating. But again, it's all self-inflicted, and I love what I do. Like I'm not complaining about that. Most of the reason I started podcasting was just so that I could have some sort of roadmap for what I was going to listen to and what I was going to be a fan of. And stuff like that, because I think in this day and age with streaming and all of that stuff, we have somewhat like option paralysis, where there's just so many things that we can listen to and so many things that we can get into that it just kills it. Like it kills it for me. Like whenever I open up Spotify and like I don't have like a discography discussion episode to prep for or something like that, I'm like, what do I do? Like what? You know what I mean? Like what do I want to listen to? You know, and it's a first world problem, like 100%. But like it's it can be very frustrating to not have some sort of like roadmap. But even once I had the roadmap, I'm like still not happy. So like, what does that say about me? You know, like it doesn't matter what you do. It's you're just never going to be happy with it.
Just listen to Freeman, dude.
I'm good. You can go do that. You let me know. Grayson, did you get all yours out?
I think I have
or did we
two
like
more.
totally derail you? Yeah, we totally derailed you after one.
Oh, you're good. No. So yeah, so Misery Signals was one. Second of all, the second one actually is quite surprising, both to me and probably everyone who knows me. The second one I would actually have to say is the new Taylor Swift album.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, and I never thought I'd say that. I've never actually sat down and listened to it by myself. My girlfriend's a huge Taylor Swift fan, and so we pre-ordered the vinyl. It's still not in, but like I heard her, like I've just heard it in the house with like she played it a lot when it came out. And I remember listening to some of it and being like, "Do you know, like this is actually really good." And it's for the same reason where like I used to not really be into singer-songwriter stuff because all I'd be hearing is like, you know, Jack Johnson and things like that. But the moment I heard City in Color, I was like, now that I can get down with. It's kind of like the same sort of thing with this Taylor Swift record compared to all of her other ones. It's like this one just kind of just felt more, it's deeper. It feels a little bit more personal, and it gets really into like that folky singer-songwriter, like minor sort of area, you know? And so I don't know, like, yeah,
I feel like ever since really since Red, that's when my wife really started getting into Taylor Swift. So we're going on almost 8 years now. Like at least like in the beginning, like the first like 3 records up until Red, where she was writing her own shit. And then from Red on, it was more like instead of writing and being a writer, it was more like I'm gonna like, and I'm fine with collabing. If you want to write with other songwriters, that's cool because like sometimes it makes your ideas better. But it just seems like she got away from what I liked about her, which is writing songs that at the core had a band kind of dynamic to it. Like it felt like it always started with an acoustic and her jamming ideas and having, you know, coming with melodies and so forth. Whereas now it's like the big machines behind her. And I feel like she as a songwriter has been lost. And the message that she typically had working for her as, you know, as a up and coming woman in the music scene, especially sort of that folky country, whatever scene, that it's lost when you put a pop sheen on it. To me,
yeah,
I don't know. I know people watching this or listening to this later on will probably be like, Taylor Swift, what the fuck? But I always admired her as a musician and as a songwriter, and I feel like she's gotten away from what made her strengths. I feel like, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of, you know, like one of the things that I really liked, or I was getting out of this record, is like I felt like it was more kind of that singer-songwriter, like her and a guitar. Of course, she collaborated with like Bon Iver, but at that point, it's like, okay,
Benny Blanco and
that,
all them.
Yeah, like that's fine. You know what I mean? It just it felt, I don't know, when I heard it, it just felt very genuine and personal, and I don't know, just like more my style, you know. And that's kind of like what kind of turned my head to it. And so that I thought that was really good. The final one that I'll say has I'll pull, you know, a little bit of what you guys were doing. This one has not come out yet, but the new I want to plug the new Kingdom of Giants record, because that one, I mean, even just from hearing the singles, I just feel like that one's going to be really, really rad. And the stuff that they've been doing, like with these new singles, has just been really good, and it makes me really excited for the record to come out in 2 days, actually. So yeah,
nice guys too, like
super nice guys.
Yeah, super nice guys. Shout out to Dana and Truman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dana was actually a camera operator for our Empire video. Yep. So
well, that's awesome.
yeah,
Well,
but those
gentlemen,
are mine. Yeah.
We did it. We survived all the side tracks. We survived all the side roads. But no, this is a lot of fun. I love just talking music. That's literally the best part about doing this is getting other opinions, other ideas. And even for me, a couple of records that I haven't heard yet that I need to check out,
I wonder if that guy who got stung by fire ants made a record.
I don't know, but I bet the screams are sick.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They're the most genuine screamed vocals you've ever heard.
Here's like a weird question I'll throw to you guys, because I know you guys are probably ensconced in this potentially with extra avenues for press for the band. Dan and I have talked on occasion of doing I don't know if it would be a weekly playlist or whatever, but just creating a playlist of stuff that either, based on whoever we're talking to, maybe things that we're talking about or artists we're talking about, like with this being, we'd put together, we maybe if we were forward thinking instead of doing these things so last minute on occasion, but, would get your top 5 lists or, I would create a top 5 list and then ask you to pick a song from the records that you picked or whatever, and then basically throw it into a weekly playlist. Do you feel like that's something that people actually give a shit about? Is, especially for like a podcast, like if we created a playlist of, hey, here's what we're listening to this week. Like, do you think people would be like, oh, that's really cool because we get to know more of these people, but more like Dan was saying, oh, I'm finding new music maybe I wouldn't have been exposed to because that's not in my wheelhouse? Or do you think it's all just kind of pretentious?
I mean, I think that would be interesting. I know that, like, as a listener, if I'm listening to a podcast or whatever of whatever bands I'm into, like talking about things, of course, like from the musical aspect, you're wondering like what inspires you, so you can like try to see into their soul and like how they write music and stuff like that. But even outside of that, it's like I think that would be interesting just to see like, oh, like, what do they listen to? What makes them tick musically? I don't know.
We might have the most fucked up list if we did that, because Dan would be like, oh, I was listening to Gore Guts, and then I'd be like, and I was I was listening to the new Juice WRLD record. And people would be like, where's the
I will say this. On discography discussion, when we do the album of the week at the end of it's so cheese. And the very first time we did it, or Joe threw that out, like, what's your guys' album of the week or whatever, I was like, dude, that is so cheese. Like, we do not need that. But it has absolutely been like almost every other email that we get in for that podcast is, hey, I checked out your album of the week last week and it was really awesome, and now I'm like really into that band or whatever. So I'd say, taking that, putting it into a playlist, something like that, putting it into a playlist, I think could actually be pretty effective.
I think it's, whether you're a podcast or a band or even an actor or an actress, like I think putting together more content for people to check out is just a good, what else is anybody going to do right now? You know what I mean?
True.
So like, it's just kind of like, I know for me that whenever I get into a band, and maybe they've been around for, 2 or 3 records, and for whatever reason, I just didn't catch on to them until later. And then it's like, oh, sweet. Now I've got all these interviews and, like studio updates that I can watch just to like kind of pick their brains and whatnot. And, that's for the hardcore music fan, but that's who it's aimed for. And, the more I feel like folks like, the artists, podcasters, etc., the more that they do to that, the more you're connecting to your audience. So I guess that's a long way of me saying, like, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been cool. And I think that even like something like this, even though we basically just sat here and talked about records for 2 hours, to somebody that, gets into Lightworker tomorrow, they're going to listen to they're going to listen all the way through my fire ant story and, all that stuff, because it's going to be so much more effective for them to hear what your guys' favorite records were this year versus me or John just sitting there doing a stock interview with you guys being like, so, what are your guys' influences? Or like
Beer.
Yeah, just so much beer, just so much. Yeah,
Fire ants.
Yeah, fire.
yeah. Little mixture of beer and fire ants is pretty much what inspired us. The song Empire is actually based off of the film Empire of Ants. So,
The decline of that empire.
yeah, we
Well,
just spelled it
basically, like,
differently,
we just thought about that movie Joe's Apartment, but instead of cockroaches that talked to us, it was fire ants, and we just thought about what that would be like.
It literally takes place in Joe's apartment.
It's right here, live.
Right here. You guys are seeing it. World exclusive. Well, guys,
If you
thanks so
don't,
much.
if you don't do a concept record next album about being in a fire ant colony and the process,
I haven't bought it yet, but I want my money back. Yeah, if it's not.
Well, thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, we will. What are we gonna do? Drop this? We'll drop it in the video will be available for all the people that didn't get to watch it tonight.
the audio will probably go up as of right now. We have the episode
in the
with
middle
Kyle
of 2022.
Conkeal. Yeah. No, we just have the Kyle Conkeal episode, I think, in front of this one for the
Okay,
lives.
cool. Sweet.
So
Cool.
we'll be up in like 2 weeks.
Rock
Awesome.
and roll.
Yeah, just
Alright,
let
sweet.
us know.
Absolutely.